pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a quite lengthy agenda this evening. We will go through the minutes of the special meeting of July 29th, followed by the regular meeting on the 30th, followed by community relations, announcements, and open forum. We have two appointments, one for traffic controllers under police and the building commissioner. We have a 6:40 public safety building committee, next steps. Then under new business, we have a request for a boot dive by Charlton Fire Local 4013, a special alcoholic beverage license request from the Chelsea McGovern Wedding, and one from Alan R. Trammell, St. Joseph's Council. A request for a common vic license, coffee food from Power Nutrition. The Civilian Traffic Commission request to purchase 2 additional LED stop signs and a repair of sidewalks. Continued discussion. Under old business, Treehouse Brewery, Route 20, letter to representatives, discussion of the pros and cons of removing the police from civil service, legal expenses / planning board, fiscal year 20 special town meeting, October 8th, 2019, review the calendar. That'll be followed by any committee reports, policy reviews, the town administrator's report, and other business unknown at the time of posting. There's one item that was added to that, a request to support new legislation regarding notification of raw sewage releases. And then the next regular meeting announcement, which is September 10th, 2019, 6:30 p.m. in the Selectmen's meeting room. So the first item on the agenda was the special meeting.
Through the chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of the special meeting of July 29th.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. I'm
Opposed?
abstaining.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. We have 4 in favor, 1 abstention.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of July 30th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the regular meeting minutes from July 30th. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. We'll go into community relations, announcements, and open forum. We do have a few announcements. 2019's Old Home Day is Monday, September 2nd. The fireworks.
Just a little bit.
Sorry?
Could you speak up just a little bit?
The 2019 Old Home Day is Monday, September 2nd, and the fireworks are Saturday, August 31st at 6:30 p.m. at the Overlook Communities. Town Hall will be closed Monday, September 2nd in observance of Labor Day. National,
Okay, you're still reading. I thought you were done.
it's okay. We have an announcement from National Grid. They will recycle your old fridge or freezer without your lifting a finger, and they'll make it easy. They will pick up your fridge or freezer at no cost, recycle it responsibly, and send you $100. It's a limited time offer, available through September 30th. You can schedule your no-cost pickup by calling 877-889-4761. Did you have something?
Yep, got through the chair. I had one more announcement. The United Way of Southbridge, Sturbridge, and Charlton, they're looking for volunteers for their 2019 Day of Giving. Projects are located in all 3 towns. The date is Friday, September 13th, and you can find more information about them on their website or Facebook page. There are, again, there's at least 2 projects happening in Charlton. The one at Dodge Chapel, I know only has 1 or 2 volunteers right now, and I'm one of them, and we're definitely looking for more to fill those spaces. So please consider helping. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here for open forum? Hi. Kathleen?
Thank you. My name is Kathleen Walker, and I'm the chairperson of Old Home Day. And this is a very happy time, and a time when the town comes together. And if you would indulge me, I would like to read you the names of our committee members, because they have been meeting since January to plan this day. And there'll be thousands of people here. So I can't remember them all. Heather Clements, Haley Clements, Ray DeLio, Bo DeRosiers, Jerry Doble, Darlene M. Rollins, Jenny Frizella, Anya Grodowski, Christine Grodowski, Mike Lally, Isabel Ops, Lisa Thomas, Tori Tinsley, myself, Kathleen Walker, Sabrina Webb, and our ad hoc members who we couldn't do without, Todd Gerard and Lieutenant Danny Dowd. So with that, I would like to give you the names of the people that have been nominated for Outstanding Citizens. And we collect nominations all year round. And this year, of course, you were all nominated because you've had such a rough year. But you have had a rough year, and we're all rooting for all of you. But it turned out that no members of elected committees or employees can be nominated. So just, we'll have to keep that in mind in the future. So the nominations for this year, Quinn Beck for the Youth Service Award, Rita Reel for a Community Service Award, Sue Crockett for a Community Service Award, Linda Davis, Community Service Award, Jack Bacon for a posthumous award, Kamasi Masonry Supply for a Business Award, Deborah Cheslick for a Parade Marshal, and our Citizen of the Year is Kathy Keel, who we all have benefited from her presence all these years. So with that, I thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you all there, and hopefully the weather will be great. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kathleen. Thank the committee.
Yeah, through the chair, please thank the committee, and thank you for everything that you do, and congratulations to all the awardees.
Thank you. Thanks.
Is there anyone else here for open forum?
Hi, Kristen Costigan, Carroll Hill Road. I just have two brief items. Last fall, there was a little bit of a snafu, and I wanted to bring it to your attention so maybe it would not occur this fall. Last fall, the music parents had emailed about a month prior to, well, it was in September, prior to the craft fair that they run near Thanksgiving time, asking for permission to put up community signs, temporary, to advertise the event that is a community fundraiser for all the student musicians at the high school, and for some reason, their email was never seen, their signs were yanked, and it was kind of unfortunate because it was within just a couple weeks of the event, so you lose a lot of visibility, so that there would have been, more people there. It's always well attended, but it's harmful to not have any signage in Charlton. So I wanted to hopefully bring that to your attention so it could be smooth this year. And then the second thing, I noticed on the agenda that there was an item for a specific board legal fees. The planning board's kind of singled out on there. And I wanted to just mention that I think it would be beneficial to the whole town if everything is a little bit more holistic. We all know that we approve a town meeting on $100,000 for Cosgrove services every year. And then in addition, we had $106,000 for KP Law this year. None of that was on the backs of the planning board. And I don't believe that they voted for any host agreements that would have caused them to incur any legal fees. So I just want to point out that it would be better if it was holistic and every board's legal fees were listed if you're going to approach capping things or, basically saying that one board's overrunning this or another board's overrunning that. So it's much better for the community to see fees that way, and also to see when fall time comes, capital expenses that way. Like, to leave the schools off or to not do everything in a holistic manner, I think hurts us on the whole. So if you, I'm sure you probably agree, but I just wanted to bring those two items up. Thanks.
Thank you. And I would ask on the first, make sure they email us, because we want to make sure that those signs go up.
Yeah, they did in September, and then the thing is in November. Somehow it just wasn't seen, so.
Or a little earlier, and email more, everybody.
Point taken.
There was one other person here for open forum?
Good evening. My name is Terry Gough, and I'm the Deputy EMD for the town. I'm here to notify you, members of the board and Mrs. Graver, about the Community Emergency Response Team, CERT. We are hosting another program. This program will begin in September on the 17th. It is sponsored by Tri-Epic Regional Emergency Planning. All cost is covered by them. However, Charlton will be hosting this year. It will be held at the Senior Center on Tuesday evenings from 6 to 10 for roughly 12 weeks. It is being posted on our town website as well as on the fire department website, and we just wanted to bring it to your members' attention so you would be aware. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Was there anyone else here for open forum?
Hi, my name is Jordyn Evans. I'm with the Charlton Cultural Council. I just wanted to use this time to bring awareness to the Old Home Day Art Show, which will be on Old Home Day. We are still accepting applications up until this Sunday. Entry forms can be found here in the town hall, across the street at the library, online, on our Facebook, and in a few other locations around town, such as Ted's. We will accept up to 3 entries from any entrant. And our gala, where we will be kind of celebrating the submissions as well as allowing judges to come in and professionally judge all applicants, will be on the evening of Sunday from 6 o'clock to 7:30. And then the art show itself will be during Old Home Day from 10 to 3. And I also wanted to discuss the the Cultural Council's grant process, which will be starting excuse me, that will be starting immediately afterward. We will begin distributing applications on the website, or you can also find them on the Mass Cultural Council website. And the deadline for those has traditionally been October 15th. It tends to ebb and flow a couple days every couple years, so either the 15th or the 16th, but it'll be around then. And that is a prime time for any organization or municipal entity in town that has a cultural program or a project that they want to bring to Charlton, but may need more funding or support, to find that funding and support through us. So we're always happy to answer questions and help bring more projects to the town. So if anyone has any questions, they can find us here in the town hall, or they can contact us on Facebook at facebook.com/Charlton Cultural Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Is there anyone else here for open forum? If not, we'll move on to our first appointment and a resignation, which is traffic controllers under police. Ms. Craver?
Okay. Attached is a request from Police Chief Maxfield asking for the following retired career law enforcement officers to be appointed as traffic controllers for fiscal year 2020. James McDonald and Billy Bedard. I would recommend the board make the appointments as requested.
So moved?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Chief's good, I'm good.
Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Thanks, Chief.
The second item under appointments will be Building Commissioner. Ms. Craver?
I believe you asked to hold that until a little bit later in your agenda. Do I have that, or do I have something
No.
here?
No?
No.
Hold on, sorry. Where am
I didn't ask
I? Page 21. I do not have. Oh, there is no memo on that, so it's back on after the appointment came up. You held it for, I think it was 6 months, for a few months until it expires on the 30th, August 30th.
So, through the chair, I make a motion that we appoint Mr. Curtis Meskris as building commissioner.
Second.
We have a motion and discussion. Is there any, motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Through the chair, is Kurt here?
No.
I would just add, and I'll say this nicely knowing he is not here, that my expectation for everyone who's an employee at town meeting is that there's a certain decorum to be followed, and that is inclusive of being able to answer questions around articles that pertain to your job. My expectation is that on a go forward, and this will be true for all department heads who attend the meeting, that if called upon to respond to questions, that they are able to do that. I think there were some issues at the last town meeting. I don't want to see that again.
So I think I would add, no one does, and not only in preparation, but also in how we treat everybody, regardless.
Agreed.
And through the chair,
Ms. Bueck?
I would look to amend the motion to put a time limit on it because of
So I think
what am I
what
missing?
Ms. Spiewak is leaning toward or trying to request is a 6-month appointment.
No, my motion is for the year until all the other appointments are to finish.
You mean the remainder of the year?
Correct. It's not for, it's
So
for
it's
the
like
remainder of
9.5
the year.
months.
And he would come up again
June
as
30th.
he would normally, yeah.
May I suggest we have this conversation like the town administrator, I think originally thought was going to happen, unfold, which would be coming out of his executive session and then voting, because we seem to be putting the cart before the horse.
Oh, that's my
So-
opinion.
I think that,
So I'm going by HR.
I understand, but so we have a motion, we have a second. I think the end result, we're dealing with a personnel issue, and we will deal with that accordingly. Whether it's for 6 months or 9.5, during that period of time, we will still, regardless, deal with that personnel issue with the same expectations,
Okay.
and we will accept nothing less.
Well
So,
put, Chair.
thank you. So, that said, is there any further discussion on the motion and the second? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. And Ms. Fielak, yes, we will continue to pursue this personnel issue. Our first appointment is our 6:40, and for that, we apologize. We're at 7:10, and that is the Public Safety Building Committee next steps. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. As you know, voters at the special election voted down the request for debt exclusion to fund a new public safety building. The town meeting approved $28,500,000 as an appropriation for a new public safety building, and it's worth noting that the vote was not contingent upon a debt exclusion. The Public Safety Building Committee is here tonight to discuss the next steps. At their meeting last week, they discussed moving forward with the fire station portion of the project while planning for an addition when the police needed to expand. You have several things to consider. Do you eliminate the police portion of the building and resubmit the revised to the voters at the May election with only a fire station? If you wish to do that, would you determine that you need to go back to town meeting for another vote for authorization for a station? Or do you believe if you plan a phased approach, you could continue to have the project be a public safety building and complete in 2 phases based on available funding? I ask because if you want to go back to October town meeting, please give direction so we can create a warrant article, or we can hold a placeholder. Next, do you review the original project to see how much of the debt could be reasonably paid within the levy limit and ask the voters for a reduced debt exclusion? The property has not been purchased per the board's direction. Do you want to purchase the property at this time or wait until a construction funding is determined? Please see the timeline created by town council as a checklist. You are able to extend the purchase date to December 2020 if necessary, but beware that you would require notification to the owner that the town wishes to extend. Municipal Building Committee forwarded you a recommendation asking the board to consider deferring any decision for 6 months to wait to see if a new funding source, i.e. VGG, will be available to complete the full project within the levy limit. Please see their attached memo.
Anyone from the board have any comments or questions for the members of the committee who are here? So,
Sorry.
no, I was just going to say, so my initial impression would be the board's first step should be discussion of their request to just not have this discussion for 6 months. Do you want to
Through the chair,
pursue that and wait 6 months?
through the chair.
Ms. Noble?
What will occur over the next 6 months?
We'd have to ask, well, apparently the Public Safety Building Committee is waiting to see if other funding may become available from other sources.
I want to be clear, there's the Public Safety Building Committee who made a recommendation to go forward with the fire department. You have your Municipal Building Committee who looks at all the buildings. They have recommended to hold, to
Okay.
see
Thank you for the
if there's new
clarification.
funding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you have the chairman of the Municipal Building Committee and the Public Safety Building in one person here, correct?
So he can
No,
argue.
no, I take that back.
So they can
Kurt
argue amongst
Meskis is-
themselves.
You are on both committees, though.
So which one is municipal?
So
Ralph?
this is the Public Safety Building in front
Yeah,
of you
this is
now.
public safety. Mr. Meskis is the chairman of the Municipal Building Committee.
Okay.
So, yeah, we met on August 15th. Our committee met 2 days after the vote failed. And the reason why we met was to either move forward if it was a successful vote or to kind of strategize if it was not a successful vote. 860 to 491. So we had to meet to decide what we were going to do next. There was 4 options that we discussed. Option 1 was to see if we could trim the building down a little bit and come up with a smaller amount of money for the taxpayers. Option 2 was to build a new fire station with a communication center and renovate the existing police station. Option 3 was to build a new fire station and renovate the police station, including their communication center. Or option 4 was to just do a fire station only at this time. 25 years, we've been trying to get a fire station constructed, and pretty much that's what the public has voiced their concern on social media and in person is they were going to support a fire station. We, on the Public Safety Building Committee, do not think that that's the greatest idea. However, we're only 1 vote each. So the committee decided that we thought it would be best for us to move forward with a fire station communication center and renovate the police station by freeing up their communication center would allow them to be able to have some more space to renovate their current space and have it as a short time period. We estimated about 10 years, and that they were going to end up needing a new police station. They need one now, but the architect that we had talked to, our architect on Tecton, thought that the renovation could buy us some time for the future. There's a possibility of us situating the building in a manner so that way we could put the police station on as if it was being built as a public safety complex all at once. It's not the ideal situation that we're in, but we feel that the 28.5 number, it's sticker shock, and no one's gonna, that's all they're gonna look at. And there's no way for us to reduce the building, the public safety building, enough to make that a more palatable number for the public without us hurting our use of the building for the future. We don't want to be in this situation where 15 years from now, we're back in front of the board asking for money for a new addition on this public safety complex because we didn't build it big enough 15 years ago. So there's no way that we could reduce the building anymore. We had already reduced it about 10,000 square feet from what our space needs analysis was to what this proposal was. So we're kind of just
Waiting for a direction.
it's, you know, we didn't think we were going to do anything until the May meeting anyway, knowing that it is fairly close to the October meeting. You know, May election, with a ballot and then May town meeting with an article. But like I said, I think the taxpayers spoke very loud and clear.
The architect is still on board and is under contract to give us a second set of plans or an idea or a conception on just a fire station communication or just a fire station, so that we can add the police later. He's reluctant, or not reluctant, or just hesitant to spend a lot of time and effort into the estimate of the remodeling the police station, because that really wasn't part of the contract anyway, so. But he said he could do, a little bit of it.
Go ahead, Mr. McGrath.
Through the chair. My suggestion, especially since the townspeople spoke, as they did with such force, which was, and from what we saw also on social media and comments that I personally heard, as well as the other committee members, was, I believe that if we move forward with the fire station and the communications addition to the new building, that we would be well served by that, by doing that. Let the committee get all their numbers and data together and then move forward in May as they're talking about now. So that would be my suggestion.
Any other members of the board? Mr. Borowski?
So 64% of the town disagreed with me at the voting booth. I mean, as people probably know, I was very much in support of this project. But I'm listening to the town, and, as Rob and Ralph said, as well as John, here's what I've heard, that for right or wrong, I'm dealing with practical realities at the moment. People are much more amenable to a price tag of 10 to 15 million. Now, whether we pay for that via debt exclusion or some type of incremental revenue, it's still tax money at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. You come in at 10 to 15 million, it might happen. However, the reality is that that's not a combined station. That is just not going to happen. Mm. A better plan is to have a combined station right now, but where do we go from here? And what I've heard is that people want to look at the police station to see how much it will cost to make modifications. There's concerns in town that we don't have a holistic capital plan, and what I mean by that is that there's our municipal side that we have our list, but the school department, respectively, are working through theirs. So we don't know, when we think around town prioritization over the next 5 to 10 years, what's more important? Is it to make a new roof at CMS? Is it to build it or modify Shepherd Hill? Is it to build a new safety complex, water, sewer, et cetera? We don't have that. So when I see a 28.5 million to even hold it out there for the future, even if it is incremental revenue coming in, whether it's marijuana, whether it's brand new business, whether we win the lottery, whether someone just, basically anything that is not a pure donation to us that can be allocated to this, I just don't see how I can support another $28.5 million ask, even if we get incremental revenue, because that's still tax revenue.
Through the chair. I don't think that that's what they're moving forward with, Bill. I believe.
No, agreed.
Yeah, so.
At least this group, but that's
Right.
a different recommendation that we have from the municipal side committee.
So, and that's why my thought process is, what is the immediate need of the town? And what have we, pretty much everybody agrees on, after seeing the shape of the 2 fire stations, and after seeing what is going on at the police station with the communication equipment, which is pretty much obsolete right now. We know we have a big bill coming due with that. We can piecemeal it for another year or so, I'm gonna say, but, we're in tough shape with the communications end of it. So I think that those are the pieces that the Public Safety Building Committee have looked at. They've tasked the architect with lopping off the police station portion of it now, and then refining the number to let us know where we go with that. And I think that their thought process of doing it in May, when we can have solid numbers, I would say, and maybe a better picture of, as you're saying, a holistic look at what, what Dudley Charlton Regional is looking at also.
Selectman Graff and I are on the same page, it's just I'm a lot more long-winded as usual.
There you go. And I
Through the
would-
chair. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I would just like to remind everybody that our current police station is not up to code.
Correct.
It's nowhere near up to code. It's an accident waiting to happen. When people are released from custody, they have to walk out through the main lobby. There are no public restrooms. There is no privacy. I know that you mentioned having an architect redesign that building. That's just a Band-Aid. This bill is gonna come due. And I understand 2.8 million is a lot of money. I don't think it was presented well, in my opinion. They saw 28 million, sorry.
2.8,
I wish it was,
Million.
you know,
It would've passed.
but anyways,
So-
it's been a long day.
It's okay.
I'm disappointed at what happened at the polls, because this is a public safety issue. This is something that benefits not only every member of the town in Charlton, but all of the surrounding towns. You know, it has far-reaching effects. So going forward, I just want folks to have that in the back of their mind, that even if we're able to build a new fire station that we so desperately need, so that we don't have to retrofit our fire engines to fit in a building that's too small for them, which is an additional cost. Our police department doesn't pass muster. The officers are wonderful, but it's dangerous the way it is now.
So that's along the lines of, I think, what I wanted to point out. So I think everyone's on board, everyone here had hoped that the public safety building would have passed. It didn't. It's the reality that we're working with. So that being said, there are certainly options. I, for one, think I would prefer to see us lean toward wait until May, see where we are financially and what our options are that we can investigate, look into, whatever. Because where I differ from Mr. McGrath and Mr. Borowski is, I think if you put forth a fire station only, it's going to fail. It's going to fail again. We need a fire station. No one's arguing that. We desperately need it. But we also desperately need a police station. And if we come forth with just a fire station, the message we're basically sending the taxpayers are, we're going to ask you for a tax increase now. Oh, by the way, we're going to ask you for another one in a couple of years. So we're asking you for the money. Whether we're asking for you at once or twice, we're still asking for the money, but now we have to come back and pass twice. And unfortunately, it's going to cost us even more because now we have a very expensive temporary Band-Aid until we ask for the second tax increase. And I don't think that the voters will lose sight of
agree.
that. So do we need fire? Absolutely. But we can't exclude police. We need a public safety building. Whether we take a really hard look at that building and figure out, are there more ways to trim this down? Are there grants, donations from businesses, other ways to get revenue and lower the amount of the ask? But I think in order to get this passed, that we have to have, it's all or nothing. I think if we come in piecemeal, we lose repeatedly, and the taxpayers lose, and the building committee, and everybody else.
It's a legit argument, absolutely.
So,
Mr. McGrath?
through the chair, I think that the committee actually put that out there pretty strongly, that was the need, that we looked at. When this first started, and this is a little bit of history, and I was corrected by former Chief Coleman, now the chief in Auburn, that this has gone back, how far, Steve? How many committees now?
1994.
1994, since the town has been talking about this. That's a shame, an absolute positive shame. We as townspeople should be very, very upset about the way we have our firefighters working, okay? We are one accident away from somebody getting crushed down there with a truck going out the door. And that's how close the quarters are. I was very, very disappointed in the vote. The fire station is definitely needed, okay? The police station, we were being proactive with that, okay? We thought that the police station that the overall cost of the facility, there would be a cost savings to the town rather than doing it in a two-part method. Now we're back to doing it in a two-part method. We are also only one catastrophe away at the police station with fentanyl. Somebody is going to get arrested over there. We do not have the place to, we do not have the place to really handle that type of stuff. We don't have the area to handle the drug, even if we get, if we have it in there, okay? We're putting people at risk. And that's what I want the townspeople to know.
It's an unfortunate truth.
And, you know, I've bit my tongue on a lot of stuff about this, and I understand what the taxpayers are saying. We're putting our public safety first responders in harm's way by not doing the building. That's it.
Thank you.
Through the chair. I'd like to know if there's anyone else here tonight that would like to speak on this matter, regarding this matter.
Mr. Coleman?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'll be brief. I just want to say that I understand that $28.5 million is sticker shock. But what I would implore the public to do, for those that think that this project is too big and too expensive, is to do some homework and to do some research. In 1994, we were looking to spend $7 to $8 million to construct a fire station. If anyone thinks, as Mr. Borowski mentioned, that we are going to do this project for $10 to $15 million, you're sorely mistaken. It's not going to happen. You are not going to construct a facility for even $15 million. And that is just to fit the equipment that we currently own today. The equipment that we own today, with the three buildings, Station 1, Station 2, and the Quonset hut across the street that they call Station 3. The fire station that was proposed in this public safety facility had one, I'm going to call it an empty bay, but it's really not an empty bay because it would have been filled with an SUV that currently sits outside. So the reality is that the building that they were proposing fit exactly the amount of equipment that they have in service today. So to think that we're going to downsize this project, my question is, what are we going to sell? What are we going to get rid of in order to downsize the project? It's not going to happen. Communities around Massachusetts that are building 2- and 3-bay substations, not even headquarters, we're not talking about administrative space, are spending $8 to $10 million on 2- to 3-bay substations. So to think that we're going to build a headquarters facility to fit the equipment that we own and operate today for $15 million, it's not going to happen. And I think the taxpayers, they need to look at that, and they need to understand that this is not an overinflated project. Neither was the police station. That's, you know, that's what I heard a lot of people, I talked to a lot of people, and they loved to compare different projects that were going around, but they were comparing an apple to an orange, and they need to compare apples to apples. I attended, I believe there were 5 meetings, Robbie, public meetings?
There was 10 public meetings, 9 at night on the weeknights, 1 during the day on a Saturday, with a total attendance of 8 people. So to say that we didn't get the message out, I believe we got the message out. People just chose not to come and hear the message. We can do all we want in the committee, in the board, and everything else. It doesn't matter when it comes to getting voters to understand and, like Mr. Coleman said, do their homework. I couldn't type fast enough to respond to people's social media comments in trying to correct the inaccuracies that existed out there, comparing us to other bordering towns' fire stations that were done significantly less. However, one bordering town built 1 fire station, they still have 2 more to build. significantly less than us. However, if you add up that project and times it times two, it's gonna be significantly more than us. There was another department nearby that renovated their fire station. They didn't build the new fire station. They renovated their fire station. There was a police station nearby that just built a police station, and if you look at their police department, it's smaller than ours, less police officers, less call volume. The information is there. I have it all. I'm willing to talk to anybody that I can talk to get them to understand, but they don't want, they're making their own assessments up. Our deputy fire chief got into a discussion with one of his neighbors that the police station is only 5 years old. He says, no, you're wrong, it's 29. And they said, no, you're wrong, it's only 5. So there's just all kinds of misinformation that exists out there. People said that they couldn't come to meetings because they were in the morning hours. So we've now switched all of our meetings to 6:30 PM. I'm sure this room is gonna get packed with people now. 6:30 at night is now our meeting times. So that way the public has the ability to come. Mr. Brodsky, you mentioned $10 to $15 million, and we're trying to hold off on saying what a fire station alone is gonna be. I got contacted by somebody and said, hey, do you want me to start a poll to see if we made an article for $5 to $10 million, would it get approved? And I said, no. Because if overwhelming the public says, of course I would approve that, but then the architect says, I can't build you a building for that, then what did we just do? We don't know what a fire station is gonna cost us. We knew what a public safety was gonna cost us. So let me give you some numbers. Southborough Public Safety Department, building that just got opened up. Same number of firefighters, same call volume, same police department, same call volume, same number of officers. Community for community, call volume for call volume. Their public safety building was $22.5 million. Our building here, 2.5 years later, was $25 million. The $3.5 million was contingencies. There was no intentions of using all 28.5. We put a contingency in there, so in the event that we ran over, we didn't have to come back to the taxpayers like another bordering community just had to do and ask their taxpayers to approve additional money for their building because they ran into some hiccups. So when you compare apples to apples, is what Mr. Coleman said, and that's all we ask for people to do, compare apples to apples. We were looking at a $25 million building, which is very similar to what Southborough just did. We're estimating $17.5 million for a fire station public communication building. The architect estimated off the top of his head at about $5.5 million to renovate the police station. It's $22.5 to $23 million. For another $1.5 million, they could have had a brand-new public safety complex. And the town could have taken the police station and renovated it for some other town use, which is another huge project that this town has to undertake. So we tried doing the right thing. Our committee looked at the logical fashion. We looked at what made sense to the taxpayers. We gave the right proposal. We didn't give an overinflated proposal. We didn't ask for an extra 6 bays. We didn't ask for all kinds of extras in this building. We were very conservative with asking what we thought that we needed for today and for the future, but also for what we thought the taxpayers could afford. Reaching out to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee, that's the numbers that we got. I don't think we can reduce this public safety complex down. There's just no way. Some of the things that people don't understand is Massachusetts is a prevailing wage state. There's nothing we can do about that. We did reach out to grants. We contacted the federal government. We contacted the State House. We reached out to all available options for grants. There is no grants available unless our building is destroyed by some federal disaster. Then there would be grants available, but I don't think that's going to happen. We can't have businesses donate time. Bordering community had a business that wanted to donate all the work on site. Can't happen. There's a law that prevents that from happening. So these are the constraints that we're trying to work with and we're trying to work under. Again, we have all kinds of information for people. All they got to do is ask. They got to reach out and ask a question.
But through a chair. But Rob, honestly, like I said, I think you guys, your entire committee did a great job, as well as the municipal setting committee, and I respect that their recommendation to just to wait 6 months, absolutely.
We agree with their recommendation. We think it would be prudent to wait 6 months. However, waiting 6 months to go back for a $28.5 million, and let's be known that The architect has already told us that that $25 million estimate with the $3.5 million contingency was only good until the fall. And then they're gonna have to redo another estimate. So that exact same building come May is no longer $28.5 million. It's now 29 something. So we agree that we should wait. However, we have a hard time believing that we can go forward with a $29 million ask or a $30 million ask and getting it to pass.
And that's where I'm going with this, is that if there's one thing that I heard when I was campaigning, of don't ask us the same question over and over again. So whether it's right or wrong, again, let's see what like the practical reality of politics and government for a second. I think all five of us agreed at one point or another that the safety building was absolutely the right way to go. And I think for every single reason, it is absolutely the right way to go. But knowing the town doesn't want it, what do we do? And unless there were material changes made to the plan that would reduce the cost, I can't say as a member of this board that I'm willing to vote to fund it via a debt exclusion, or quite honestly, even via a big portion of it via new incremental revenue if we ever got it. So that's what I'm struggling with, because I want to say, yes, this is absolutely the right plan, but 64% of the town says, I don't care, meaning we don't think it is, or it doesn't matter. So it was such an overwhelming majority saying they don't want this. Unless there are significant changes, I can't support it as a member of the board. So again, I'll stop talking now, because that's basically that's what I'm struggling with.
Mr. Chairman, I'll leave with this. If there's significant changes, you may as well save your money and not build it.
Which honestly could be an option.
Because it's not going to be a usable, workable building. I attended 6 of those public meetings. Most of the time, I was either here by myself, or there was one other member for the public. Social media was mentioned a couple of times. It can be a great tool, but I don't think, we need to make every decision based off of what the social media warriors say. There were a lot of people that had a lot of things to say. I just wish most of them were in that room to at least get the information, get an informed opinion, and then I could better live and respect the decision. But as someone who sat here 6 nights, listening to the presentation 6 times, and knowing that only 8 people in the community bothered to get the information, that's the disheartening part. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
The chair.
Mr. McGrath.
The disheartening part here is going to be when one of our employees gets hurt. That's going to be the disheartening part.
Chief?
So I appreciate your comments regarding everything you've said about, but the reality is we're just kicking it down the road again. And it's been since 1994 that we've been kicking it down the road again. And at what point does it stop?
That's why my recommendation would be start with a fire department, knowing that there's a build-out for the police station later.
But is the understanding there that that price tag will be probably in excess of $10 million over what you would have spent for a complex?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying it makes good financial sense, Chief. What I'm saying is that listening to the voters, they sent a very clear message, and I'm just having a real hard time reconciling those two, because we can keep coming back and saying 28.5, 30, even 25. If the voters just keep saying no, then we're actually kicking the problem down further, because then people are losing trust in the process, which scares me just as much as you guys not having, along with Chief Max, like the tools that your department needs. If we come back with another $28.5 million ask and it gets shot down, I don't know when we can ever talk about it again.
And that's what we're telling, and I agree with what Chief Coleman said, is you may as well just take it off the table. Because there's no way we're gonna come back as a committee with reduction that's gonna satisfy, 1, the needs of the departments, and 2, what the people think the building should cost. So there's just a lot of spinning of wheels here.
I get it. I really do.
Ms. Graver?
I really appreciate everything everyone said, and certainly about the safety issues. I just have a couple of thoughts. One thing that hasn't really been brought up is that this was a holistic approach, and that it did go to town meeting, and you had an opportunity for the people who were at town meeting to actually discuss the project and why the building committee, the Public Safety Building Committee was recommending what they did, which was a combined, and then to looking at renovating the police station for other municipal uses, because one of the things that I think at the Public Safety Building and the Municipal Building Committee, they really acknowledged that we didn't do a great job of talking about this building and what the needs are here. And we've got people on top of each other. It certainly pales as a reason next to the public safety issues that Selectman McGrath cited. But I want to bring your attention to, and I didn't look at the the social media, but in the town meeting, you had a vote that supported a public safety building. The question that went to the voters was, will you allow that public safety building to be built outside the levy limit? That was the question. It wasn't, do you want a public safety building? It was, how do you want to fund it? Do you want to fund it by a debt exclusion? And the answer was no. And if you think about the answer, I just want to bring that up because you may kind of be graying or mixing in some of the motivations. Again, I didn't look at social media, but some of the motivations might have been, some of those people may have said, enough, I can't take any more outside. You know, we've just done the debt override. An override. Debt exclusion. Thank you. A 2.5 debt override. Thank you. That may have been weighing on people's minds and may have absolutely nothing to do with whether or not they want a fire station or they want a public safety building. So somewhere in there, I think you need to have, as Selectman Spiewak had talked about, having public hearings, you know, to have another, maybe you do a survey to try and get an understanding of what actually happened out there. Was it because the taxpayer is at full max? Does the taxpayer agree that if there are other new funds that do it within the levy limit and it should be both? Do we need to let the taxpayer know exactly how this building is faring? I'm not sure all of that kind of got out, but I just would caution you to automatically go because the vote failed, that the town does not want a joint public safety building. That's all.
Rob?
I read every comment. Every single one of them I read, and there was a common theme, about 3 common themes. One was, my taxes are too high, we just raised our taxes for the school, and I can't raise my taxes again. Even though I tried explaining to them the whole roll-off of debt is how that's gonna work, by the time that the raise actually happens, there'll be 2 debts rolled off, and then there'll be another one the following year, and then there'll be another one 2 years after that. Again, I couldn't explain it fast enough. The other theme was that the police department just got a new building, and again, it's a misconception, 29 years old, people think the building should have lasted for a lot longer, and again, the shape of the building is fine, it's just, it's a poor layout, and it needs to be fixed in order for them to have a better operation. That was the other common theme. And then the other common theme was, until there's additional revenue coming into the town, because the school is gonna need something at some point, whether it's a new high school or new elementary school or whatever it may be, they're just gonna keep voting no. And going along with what the chief said, we are just kicking the can down the road. Eventually, we gotta pick the can up and take care of it. We gotta throw it away. We gotta take care of the problem. This problem that we're in right now in 2019, it should have been addressed in 1994, 1999, 2007, all of these other years that the committees existed. They all came up with the same finding. Everybody came up with the exact same finding, that the fire stations need to be replaced. And our finding was the exact same way. We agree that the police department needs something. And unfortunately, like Mr. Borowski said, when we look at the financial numbers, it doesn't make sense. $17 million for a fire station, communication center, $5 million for renovation, and then in 10 years from now, we're gonna build a police station, which will probably cost us about $17, $18 million at that point. I don't know, you know, it doesn't make sense at all, but that is exactly what the speech on the social media was. That is exactly what the message was. We'll deal with that later. Let's deal with what we gotta deal with now. I agree with you, it doesn't make sense at all, but we're all one vote. And I'll just say, you know, we've said it a couple times. You said 64% of the townspeople voted, and it wasn't. It was 64% of the 1,300 people that voted. Granted, 1,300 people is a lot. The town clerk said it was the largest, you know, one-question ballot that she's seen, and she estimated it was only going to be about 500 or 600 people. So 1,300 people voted, way more than what they thought. There was some people that said we shouldn't have done it during the summer because everybody was away on vacation. I can't imagine that there was 7,000 people away on vacation all at the same time, but I suppose it's possible.
So through the chair, now you see the quandary that the committee is in.
I never questioned the quandary. I just believe that we need both, and that if we do half, we're just basically telling the taxpayer, we're gonna come back and ask you again, and to Robbie's point, now it's gonna cost me 38 to 40 million to do the same thing.
Through the chair, if I may. I absolutely understand there's a need for both. The town has spoken, but I do prefer personally the recommendation to, as crazy as it sounds, do it in phases. Keep the plan, phase it in, and down the road, we know we're going to have additional revenues coming in, and there could be other efforts, and we need to be a little bit more creative. Not that you've been very creative, but as a town, what we want to do with our existing facilities. For instance, I know the town administrator just mentioned the police station, and perhaps when and if the public safety facility comes to fruition, that we would expand the offices because they're crunched from here over there. But is that something that we can hold off, and could we sell the police station to put the money towards the new facility? Again, I'm just throwing out different ideas to be a little creative, but I think we should keep it, and then we know we're going to have additional revenues. We have many businesses opening up in this town, and we can look at different, even philanthropy efforts, perhaps. I think it can be done, and I know it's going to cost more if we phase it in, but I think it'll be more palatable to the residents of the town. I think they back it. I do think they do support it. It's just the sticker shock. And you did an amazing job, I have to say, at responding and with your presentations. And I just...
I agree with Ms. Spiewak that we should sell the old police department. I don't see a reason to keep it. We need fire, we need police, and get rid of the old.
I just don't.
Put the money back to the taxpayer.
Oh, I think the...
Yeah, through the chair, I just don't know, and Rob, the chief, like, if you guys are looking for direction from us, or.
I think that's why the committee
Yeah,
came
that's-
before you.
yeah, that's what I thought.
I was just gonna bring that up.
Yeah.
Board, will if you have a recommendation, my recommendation personally is to wait until May,
Okay.
but I'm one person, this board will make its decision.
We want to wait, Mr. Chairman, sorry, we want to wait till May. However, are we waiting till May to produce another public safety complex design at a lesser amount, which we know is not going to happen? Or are we waiting till May to produce a fire station communication center building?
Sure. Again, just my opinion, and I'm usually wrong, so consider that. My personal opinion is you need the public safety building, and that hopefully come May, you'll have 3 to 4 times the turnout, because it's also an election. You'll have much higher turnout at the polls. That could change. Then you'll have, I think, a better representation of the heart of the community and what they want. I think it also gives time to do more educational outreach, and to all of your points and Steve's, hopefully more than 8 people come. Maybe there's more the board can do as far as the website. Maybe if some company can't contribute to the construction, perhaps they can contribute in other ways. Direct mail pieces, marketing campaigns, pay for direct mail pieces, outlining everything you want people to know, mailed right to their homes. Maybe there are other ways to help get the public educated prior to that time, combined with the 3 to 4 times greater turnout at the polls.
Or do we start cutting the budget to pay for it? Just saying it's an option. I'm not saying that I want to do it, but.
Well, I'm just putting out my thoughts.
And through the chair, I understand there,
Bless you.
you may not, you're kind of handcuffed regarding what you can accept from the public, but if there happens to be an angel donor listening and someone wanted to write out a nice check, and maybe people could match the contribution.
I'll give you $50.
I used to
right
do
now.
philanthropy for many years, and so anyway, that you
Sounds
could
like a
certainly
GoFundMe.
accept that, could you not?
I don't,
If they wrote it to the town and we.
it would be Town of Charlton or my name directly, I don't know.
Make your checks out to Rob Barton.
Yeah, Chief,
You know,
notice you mentioned his name, not yours.
Well, he's gonna be, so I don't know, and that would be a question that we would have to ask, I know there are a lot of public, MGLs and, laws that we're required to follow, so, but I would imagine that, yeah, if you wanted to give us $5 million,
Right, I'll write the check right
hypothetically
now.
speaking,
Go right ahead.
it could get donated in, and it could get part of, the funding type thing. I would
Mm-hmm.
imagine that that's okay, but I just know that a business was told that they could not donate their time, personnel, equipment, and material to do the site work on this fire station that was being renovated, because prevailing wage law prevented them from donating their time. So I know that happens.
So
You
perhaps
can,
they
you
should
can
have wrote a
accept
check
money. You
instead.
can accept money.
Right, they should have wrote a check.
Over in
Pay
West.
someone else to do it.
But
I'm sorry, Ms. Walker.
Thank you. Just quickly, as a no voter, who was originally a yes voter, the sticker shock was what got to me, and I think that's what got to everybody. I think because the vote was so dramatic, I think if you go back, you wait 6 months and go back and do it again in a little bit of different fashion, you're not gonna get anywhere. People are gonna say, what I would say is, why didn't they listen to me? It was 2 to 1. And they're just gonna be angry about that. I really think what we need desperately is a fire station, and we need it now. And I think people will go for a fire station. And I think that's the direction you should go in, and the direction you should work towards right now.
I'm all on this one.
Chief?
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. But again, you're talking about a lot of what-ifs here. Somebody's going to magically donate money. That's
Karen's
pie in the
What
sky.
happened over in other towns?
The reality is the dilemma is still in front of us. The committee needs a direction moving forward. If you want them to stand down for 6 months, they can certainly do that. However, things move on, prices go up, and what do we do with the architects now who are looking at this approach of a phased building? And that's what the committee's looking for. Because these guys and ladies have put in a lot of time to make this happen. And to put more time into it where we all know what the answer is, because the sample size you got at this election, I'm gonna say, is probably gonna mirror what you're gonna get at the May town meeting if it's left as is. And it's not, doesn't matter how many registered voters come out. I think your sample size was big enough to give you an indication of where the people thought.
So through the chair, I'm hearing 3 options. 1, we just scuttle it for a couple years. 2, we go fire station with police build out. Or 3, we get a
Phased approach.
yeah, correct. Then, or part 3, that we get a scaled down version of,
Fire department.
oh no, I'm sorry, a scaled down version of public safety and see what that comes up with. I mean, I think those are my 3 options on the
So
table.
the third option was fire and communications.
Yeah, I'm sorry, forgive me. When I say fire, I'm including communications because that is an absolute requirement. So, I mean, to me, those are 3 options. Personally, I would love to see, again, a public safety building, but my last comment, I just don't think it's gonna pass in the foreseeable future.
So I believe what they're looking for then is a motion, second, and a vote from this board in the direction that the board wants them to take. So that being said,
Motion to proceed with only a fire and communications, am I saying that correctly? More money in the long term.
so the motion and second is for a fire station with communications only, allowing for a second phase for police to be added on.
That's what I think we need to do in the short term, yes.
We have a motion and a second. Is there
So
any,
you're changing the plan, you're asking me to change the plans, or are we keeping it and then
That-
building out?
Well, that would be my recommendation, would be to do that, honestly. If you guys want to come back with a public safety building in May again, just know that I don't know who, like, what board members are going to support it. So if you're looking for my personal opinion, that's my motion. Take it with a grain of salt.
And I'll speak for myself personally, is I don't think there's enough, whatever you want to call it, fat, whatever you want to call it, that's going to be cut off, that's going to give you a number to get voted in, yes,
For the public safety?
for the public safety building.
Unfortunately, I agree with you. And I think it's a mistake, but I agree with you.
Because once you start getting into true space needed, you take away the integrity of the building and what it was planned for a 35 to 50-year building. And I don't think that's what the town wants.
I'm with you, Chief.
You know, we cut out 9,000 square feet from our original space needs analysis. That space needs analysis was just, it wasn't a fictitious number. They went around to both departments and they met with both chiefs and both operations, and they said, what do you guys need now and what do you guys think? So we cut out 9,000 square feet of this building already. So for us to take this $25 million building, and it come May, it's gonna be more expensive, but we're not gonna be able to get it under 20 million, never mind 17, 15, and there was even a number thrown out there of 10. Like, it's just not, it's not happening, and that's the unfortunate part, is people don't understand the cost of building. So I don't think the option of trimming this down and coming forward with a public safety complex is a viable option. And unfortunately, I agree that it's gonna cost the taxpayers more money in the long run by the time they pay off the total loan amount, total debt amount for the building in an incremental phase, whatever it may be. But again, like the chief said, we got a pretty good sample size and they spoke pretty loud. So if we wait till May, yeah, we may get more yes votes, but there also may be more no votes that come forward as well, so.
so the motion and second, just to restate it, was to have the Public Safety Building Committee go back, work with the architect on a scaled-down version. There'll be fire and communications only, allowing for police as a second phase that can be addressed later at additional cost.
Begrudgingly, yes.
Is that correct? Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
No.
I think it's a bad idea.
So, 2 noes, 2 ayes. Chair will vote aye, and I will tell you that I hope I'm wrong, because I don't think it will pass without police. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it passes for fire, but I believe you should have the opportunity to see if the voters will give you what you're asking for. They can say yes, or they can say no again. I agree with Ms. Noble and Ms. Viwak regarding throwing good money after bad, and with the chief, and with Steve, about maybe don't build it at all. But the public has a right to vote on this, and you guys did a lot of hard work. I just think in the end, my fear is that they're going to shoot it down, because they're gonna say, you're just gonna ask me for more money later, and it's gonna cost me another 10 million, another 10 million, and again, I just hope I'm wrong. But you
Mr.
have the
Chairman,
vote.
I said that exact statement to a resident. We communicated back and forth. And I said, do you understand that if we do this, then, and he says, yep, I'm okay with that.
So that's why I gave you the third vote, and just saying, I agree with you and Mr. Coleman and Ms. Noble and Ms. Spear too about the good money after bad. And that's why I'm saying I hope I'm wrong. I hope the taxpayers give you what we need.
We plan to hold more public meetings, and we're gonna hold as, really monthly, we'll hold, I don't know, we'll hold probably 20 more between now and May. But again, we have to encourage the citizens to come out, and if overwhelmingly citizens come out and fill this room, and they overwhelmingly hear the presentation, and they say, you know what, now that I have the right information, I would support a public safety complex, then there's nothing that says that we can't come to the May meeting, or the May election ballot with that in mind. But unless we hear some overwhelmingly change of opinion from the public at these meetings or reaching out to us, I think we got the message already, so.
And so through the chair, Rob, just what I was actually thinking about, I hate to say it, and I do not support this, but you could always ask for both.
Correct. That was my thought.
I'm being completely serious, and I think it's a horrible idea, but you could absolutely ask for both and say, here's fire only. However, do you want to, now knowing what you know, do you want a second shot at this? Because if the more expensive one passes, seems to me that's the one that we proceed with. It's just an idea, but to your point, if you hear more in May, you can always recommend to bring it back. I mean, I think that you're looking for direction from us. We like giving you some direction. You may choose to ignore that direction. That's okay. That's how the system works. So, anyway, just something to think about. John, is that what you think?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to
That's
say.
terrifying.
So-
That's bad.
Thank you.
You have one more thing to go over, is the land.
Oh,
Yeah, buy the land.
so,
Motion to,
so there's
Motion
a
to buy
motion and a second, Mr. Borowski, Mr. McGrath, to buy the
Correct.
land. Is there any discussion?
through the chair, just very quickly as a reminder, that this was all approved at town meeting. There's been a purchase and sale, I think I'm saying that right, I don't even know.
You're right, PNS.
That it's been sitting out there based upon some timing to see if it's going to be approved or not. I think this should absolutely be approved. I think it's a good investment. I think it's a fair market price, and it sets us up for the future. There are conditions around it based upon a public safety building, right, Ron?
Public safety or
It's a
fire or
town
police.
use.
Town use, correct, yeah. However, it's a good deal. It was negotiated in good faith. I think we should absolutely buy it right now.
And I
Sorry.
hope we have something to build on it.
I have faith in the town, eventually.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Good? Rob, you good?
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rob.
It's only 8 o'clock. I'll be right back. You guys do your thing.
Yeah. First item under new business, Ms. Craver, request for a boot drive, Charlton Fire Local 4013.
Oh, we're going backwards. No, we're not.
No, we're in order.
No,
We're going
page 62.
We're in order.
Charlton Fire Local 4013 are requesting permission to hold their MDA-filled boot drive on Saturday, September 7th, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. with a rain date of September 8th at the intersection of Masonic Home Road, Old Worcester Road, North Main Street, and Main Street. This request was forwarded and approved by Chief Maxfield, contingent upon the following safety precautions. All volunteers must wear bright colored vests. Orange traffic cones must be set out at the road's requested distance for not less than 50 feet on each respective way to reaching the boot drive. A minimum of 5 traffic cones on each roadway should be put in place at a distance of no greater than 10 feet apart. And warning signs saying voluntary boot drive ahead must be erected not less than 75 feet from the toll station. I would recommend the board approve the request.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Ms. Craver, number 2, special alcoholic beverage license request, Chelsea McGovern wedding.
Yes, sir. Attached is a request for a special alcohol beverage license from Chelsea McGovern for a wedding to be held on Saturday, September 8th, from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the Camp Jocelyn at 150 Richardson Corner Road, Charlton, Mass. Police Department, Fire Department, Building Commissioner have all approved the request. Per the board's policy, the license, if approved, should be issued for 2 additional days, which is to allow delivery the day before the event and for pickup the day after the event with no sales allowed. I would recommend the board approve the special license as requested with the dates on the license to be September 27th through September 29th.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Number 3, under new business, special alcoholic beverage license request, Alan R. Turmel, St. Joseph's Council. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached is a request for a special alcohol beverage license to be used for a fundraiser, spaghetti dinner from Alan Trammell on behalf of St. Joseph Council Knights of Columbus and Mary Martha Guild, to be used on September 28th from 5:30 to 10 p.m. in the St. Joseph's Church Hall at 10 H. Putnam Road Extension. The Police Department, Fire Department, and Building Commissioner have all approved the request. Per the board's policy, the license, if approved, should be issued for 2 additional days, which would allow delivery the day before the event and for pickup the day after the event, with no sales allowed on those days. I would recommend the board approve the special license as requested, with the dates on the license to be September 27th through September 29th.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing those, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Number 4, Ms. Craver, request for common vic.
Yes, sir. Attached is a request for a common viculars, which is coffee food license for Jessica Power Nutrition, 109 Masonic Home Road, number 5. The hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. She has completed the proper paperwork needed for this request. It is recommended that the board approve the request.
Is Ms. Power here for a cheap plug for her business? I got nothing. So moved.
Second?
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Ms. Craver, number 5, Civilian Traffic Commission.
Yes, sir. Attached is a request from the Civilian Traffic Commission asking the Board of Selectmen to consider purchasing 2 additional LED stoplights to be installed at the intersection of Brookside Road and Stafford Street to augment the 2 existing LED stop signs. The cost for these 2 signs would be approximately $4,500. These blinker sign flashing LED stop signs have a rechargeable solar power battery that displays red lights in the corners of the octagonal sign, thereby making the sign more visible to motorists. In 2018, the Board of Selectmen were gracious enough to allocate the funding for 4 flashing LED stop signs and 1 JMAR radar recorder. Of the $19,350 allotted from the Casella donation account, after a discussion with our finance director, there is currently a balance of $6,855.41, which has been reserved in the Casella donation account and was not part of the closeout. What are the board's wishes?
Through the chair.
Mr. Borowski.
I would happily support this at town meeting or some other payment method via free cash, whatever. I do not want to touch that Casella account. I think we've had enough problems with it to begin with. But I could be in the minority on that.
Through the chair.
So is that a motion to not approve, or?
No, I'll wait to see if somebody else wants to approve. I'm not going to make a huge thing out of it.
Through the chair.
Ms. Noble?
I know the intersection that they're talking about, that they're referencing here. Even with the 2 LED stop signs, in a period of about 3 weeks, there was 3 very bad accidents at that intersection. We need to do something.
Close
Something
Stafford
more.
Street.
And through the chair, I just want to make, there was a correction. It's Brookfield Road, not
Yes,
Brookside.
Brookfield, yes,
Yeah.
it's Brookfield and
Yep.
and Stafford. Because 2 sides stop, 2 sides don't. And it's just a constant problem.
There's
And
a lot
again,
of problems on Stafford.
yes,
Absolutely.
3 accidents in 3 weeks.
And I think it has a lot to do with the Waze app, quite honestly. They direct people around the traffic, and I'm just saying, it happens.
No, I
And
mean,
They're
it's-
not familiar with the intersection,
If
and that's
any-
really,
What's a nightmare?
Anybody who was trying to travel, on the Mouse Pike on Sunday ended up going through Charlton. And when they couldn't get up and down Route 20, they went on Stafford.
So is there any further discussion or any motions people would like to make?
Do you have someone in the audience who would like to speak?
Ms. Vincent?
Could we have the one
Could she go to the mic?
Could she-
Can
needs to
you
come
take
in.
the mic? Thank you. Just gonna bring her the mic. See, he was being rude and didn't offer to bring the mic to you.
Hey, Drew, let's get a mobile mic at some point.
Could we
Just
get
walk
the
out.
stop signs that are at Center Depot Road and Stafford Street, especially the one that's on Center Depot Road as you're heading toward Route 20? Could we get that one fixed? It's not working.
So
Only
I-
one little thing flashes. So before we
Oh,
get
wow.
new ones, could we at least fix the old ones?
So did anyone know that, I assume no one knew that wasn't working.
I
No.
would probably forward that comment to Jerry.
Through
Can you
the
do that,
chair?
Mr. Craver?
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay.
Thank you.
When we approved the initial signs, I do remember asking if they came with a warranty, for lack of a better phrase, and yes, they do.
So we need to have, Hope
The company will
Craver
come and
ask
repair
Jerry
Yeah.
to reach out to the manufacturer or the company,
Which center, which intersections?
Center Depot.
So this question's more for Robin. When we allocated the funds out of Casella, did this go into a separate account already and it's not in the Casella account, or is this in?
I'm going to defer to the finance director.
Gotta love general ledger accounting.
It's still in the same account number, it's just reserved because you had already appropriated or authorized those funds. So they're still sitting there. It was not what I closed out because you had already said you were gonna expend that money.
Did we say what that was gonna be expended on?
The civilian traffic.
Those lights, so.
So.
They just didn't use all the money that
Okay.
you had
So-
allocated.
So with that, I will make a motion that we approve this with funds that have already been allocated and not used.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
So I'm going to actually join Mr. Borowski on this one in that I support the signs, but I was under the personal impression that all remaining funds from that account were going to be moved into the general fund. If we could pay for this, I'm happy to from another fund, but for me, I'd rather see that remaining 6855.41 get also moved into the general fund, and then the taxpayers can vote to fund it that way or from another source. Is there any other discussion?
You have somebody else coming up.
I am on the Civilian Traffic Committee. Just for clarification, we're talking two different intersections. Stafford and Center Depot is a two-way stop, not a four-way stop. Those two are the two that are present already.
Yep.
These two that we're replacing do not go there.
No.
No,
They're going at Stafford and
Brookfield,
Brookfield.
correct.
Okay, because that's a four-way stop, that
Yep.
two are not. That's just one thing. And the other thing is, at our last committee meeting, we did make a request that we are going to be speaking with Jerry about fixing the broken one
Okay.
already. So we are aware of it. We're looking into whether it's warranty, whether it's the highway department, or who is responsible for fixing it. But we are aware of it and working on it.
Okay, thank you, Derek.
Thanks,
Thank
Derek.
you. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
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 Chair votes no as well. Motion fails 3-2. The board, I believe, is in favor of the signs, just not the funding mechanism.
Yeah, I would love to see that, I mean, I know that we're talking about the warrant later. I'd love to be able to see that as either part of free cash or just some other funding mechanism, let's put it that way.
And I think we should put it on the warrant.
So through the chair, just if that is a problem with what's left in that account, then how do we, and probably more through finance, how do we fix that, Donna?
Boy, it's too bad we don't have a mobile mic, Drew.
Donna Mike, that's it.
Well, it would, if you want to close it out, it won't be until the next free cash certification, which would be next year around this time. That, you had already obligated the money, I didn't close it because you had obligated the money. That also goes for the two trucks that you obligated the funds to, because those had already been ordered and waiting for them to arrive.
So that being said, though, we could still have an article on the warrant for this
Yeah,
town
I'm
meeting.
just saying,
to
what
pay
I
for-
want to make
Right.
sure is there's nothing that we could do here tonight to put that back into the general fund.
No.
Okay, thank you.
So would anyone, I would like to ask Ms. Craver if the board would entertain it, having an article put on the warrant for this town meeting to fund those two signs, just via a different source.
Well, could they even use the Casella funds? I mean, dead serious, when I ask, I don't want to touch it.
Yes.
So,
So the taxpayers can vote at town meeting
Correct.
to allocate those funds.
out of Casella.
I can
Yes.
put that in as a transfer within the interdepartmental, so it doesn't even
Oh, there
need to
you
be a
go.
separate.
I think that way it's important that
problem
the board's,
solved.
the board's honored its word to move those funds into the general fund, and what the taxpayers decide what to do with it.
And I do have a question, because this won't cover the entire amount, correct? There'll still be
No.
a little residual. Would you like that to be closed out next June?
I,
Yes.
through the
Yeah.
chair, I would love to see that account just closed and done away with.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Donna.
Thanks, Donna.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robin.
We can also look at the remaining monies, and if we need to do some transfers, we can take it from that.
Thank you.
Possibly.
Just finish that up. So I just want to be clear. You did authorize 2 trucks, which have been ordered, and you're okay with that? Do
They've
you
been
want that
ordered.
to go back before town meeting?
There's also now a contractual
You
obligation.
have a contractual
Okay,
obligation
I'm
that's
just-
made on that.
Okay, so just for the people at home, so you, why
No,
you're
it's a good point.
thinking is that you're okay with the trucks.
Yeah, that's.
Pride of my time, but I'm not gonna
Yep.
second guess opinions.
I'm gonna get sued for breaking your contract.
Yeah, it's small things.
So that being said, I'm going to ask Ms. Craver to bring up number 6, repair of sidewalks. Ms. Beeler? Correct.
Yep.
She did say, you have something to read, right, Robin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Uh,
I just want to make sure I'm not.
102, Robin, if it helps.
102, it helps me, thank you.
Are you ready? Okay. At the board's July 30th, 2019 meeting, Selectman Borowski stated that he read on the planning board's Facebook page that they had put in applications for grants to repair sidewalks. He asked to coordinate a meeting between highway superintendent and the planning board in the fall. He has had several requests from people regarding the sidewalks along Main Street, and he promised that he would bring it back to the board for discussion. Planning Board Chairman Patsy Ridlek was at the board's July 20th meeting and said she would ask Town Planner Randy Benson to attend the board's next meeting. Mr. Benson said he will attend and provide an update. Chairman Singer had asked that we put this item on tonight's meeting.
Through the chair. Again, I appreciate the board's indulgence on this. Again, long story short, when I was campaigning, a lot of folks who live on Main Street or who walk that area, if you haven't walked it recently, let's just say that the sidewalks are in a bit of disrepair, and I happen to agree with them. So my question is, after, talking to the chair of the planning board and seeing some postings and that my understanding, Randy, that there are other grants that have been applied for. I don't know if grant's the right word, but what I'm looking to do is really coordinate our infrastructure approach with at least a potential estimate and focus on the downtown area first, potentially, and really leave it up to the voters. But I suppose what I'm trying to get at is, what I don't like to see happen is different groups working in a silo. So I think the planning department, working with DPW, working with the Board of Selectmen, et cetera, basically getting us all on the same page in an overall strategic direction, which may or may not lead towards Main Street sidewalks. However, I think it's at least an area for discussion that we can start with. So that was the catalyst behind all this. So, thank you.
Yep. Comments by the board? No. Randy?
Yes, the planning board's been working with the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission for the past few years. There's a program called Complete Streets, which is through the Mass DOT. It's a 3-tier program where you have to first get committed by the Mass DOT and then determine where you would want to build new sidewalks. This program can be something as simple as a bus stop to whole street corridor improvements and anything in between. They do have a funding limit of $400,000. The planning board has gotten to tier 3, which we have a $10,000 allocation right now, which we have the funds that would pay for engineering and design and a cost estimate for then applying to the Mass DOT for the funding. So at this point, we're at the point where we have to decide where do we want to build the sidewalks. In Charlton, it's actually specific to the village district, so Main Street area, that's in-town areas where we have to focus on. So we have to, $400,000, it is a lot of money, but it doesn't go a long ways when you're actually doing construction, because we do have the prevailing wage. It's Mass DOT standards, it has to be ADA compliant, whatever we choose to do. So now we have to decide where do we want to start to go with the sidewalks. We've had a lot of suggestions, and at the last planning board meeting, we actually discussed about possibly going out into the village district area, exploring some of our options, and then bringing it to the public to decide where would you like to see our resources spent as far as sidewalk improvements. I know there's a lot of talk right here in the Main Street area. It can be either improving existing sidewalks, new sidewalks, or a little of both. I mean, it can be street lighting. There's not just sidewalks. There's a lot of other improvements that can be. It's for pedestrian and bicycle access. That's the whole point behind the program, so that's what we would focus on.
Yeah, through the chair, I mean, my obviously preference, and again, obviously, I was not aware that it was part of the village district, so this is all serendipitous. I'm very happy to hear that. I mean, I love your idea around working with the residents to say what would be most beneficial. I mean, all I'd ask is that we continue to coordinate so that, again, you know, Jerry's aware of what you guys are doing, and obviously the Board of Selectmen
Actually, Jerry and I have been having discussions on, you know, he's more familiar with the town than I am, because I'm newer here and everything,
Oh, you know
where
the
the
job, right?
areas are that are of major concern, and of course, Main Street is one of the large areas of concern, particularly where, I mean, we all know there's parking issues and everything with sports and everything, so we're trying to figure out how to, you want to tie into what you can, so you complete streets so that you eventually someday would get a complete sidewalk system. So you have to start someplace and then keep branching out from that
Through
central location.
Can our board help with this at all? Meaning for advocacy or feedback or?
Yeah, I mean, right now, the decision is, where do we start? That's where we're at right now, because, and once we decide where we want to start is where we would get an engineer to actually design and come up with a cost estimate that we can submit to Mass DOT. Where the next year, the next round will be for 2020, which funds will be available. So we're actually in a good position to be ready to apply for next year.
Richard, may I recommend that the potential with the planning board chair's indulgence, that basically you could present a couple options, whether it be, you know, X, you know, option 1 does X, option 2 does Y, and whether it's get feedback both from the Board of Selectmen, DPW, as well as the town folks, then we can have a much larger discussion to say, you know what, let's concentrate on this. I don't expect this to happen overnight, for the record.
Oh, no, but that's why I think that first we try to get some ideas of where to do it, and then present it to the public and get some
John, this up your
feedback
alley.
and input from the public of where they would like to see the work done.
So just, I think Randy and Patsy, maybe an inventory of what you have for sidewalks already, that have the ADA ramps already with the yellow anti-slip pad.
Yeah.
Because if your sidewalks are in halfway decent shape, then you just have to add the pads, you know, add your cement pad.
Yeah.
And the yellow, that's gonna, you know, then you can put, you know, new sidewalks in somewhere else. But I haven't looked at this. I'll try and take a look at Main Street myself, because I think there is a thing in the program that allows you to use asphalt instead of doing concrete. The only thing that has to be concrete is the pad.
Right.
Is the ramp pad. And then the other costly item is the sloped granite that comes down to the pad.
With the pad, that sometimes they want, what they call a tactile warning strip, is somebody that's, you know, blind or
Yeah,
whatever, that would need to
exactly.
know that they're coming into it.
They can feel it, yeah. But you know, and, you know, I'll take a quick look, and I'm sure Jerry can say, you know, which other ones are, you know, are pretty beat up.
And through the chair, maybe we can get a couple of us to one Saturday morning or something to go take a quick walk together and take some notes so we can.
Love to. Yeah,
Yeah, just send an email with the date and the time.
Perfect.
cool. Thanks, everybody.
Okay?
Yeah, but seriously, and again, thank you to the board for putting it on.
Randy, I'll try and get some, get some just rough costs from what the line items are going for in certain contracts now.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
That'd be great.
I'll look them
Thank you.
Thank you.
up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Patsy, nice job on that.
So that done, we will move on to the first item under old business. Ms. Craver, Treehouse Brewery, Route 20.
Yes, sir. At the board's July 30th meeting, I was directed to contact traffic at Belmont Street and our state legislators, asking them to put this project on the fast track for both the plan and design. At that time, I believe you were under the understanding that it wasn't being moved quickly enough. I attended the Potter Village Bridge dedication, and I had a chance to speak with representatives from Mass DOT regarding this. Kim Galinsky from the Treehouse also contacted me by email, stating that her engineers will be reaching out to us to give us an update. She had spoken with them, and they advised her that things are in fact in progress, and that there's nothing stopping or holding up the progress. So it is still an active project, and they're moving right along. At this time, I'd ask the board to hold off on any letters being sent at this time, as I'm concerned we might get up in front of them. So since you had made that request, I'm just asking for the board to approve that I hold off on those letters.
Through Chair, I don't know if you want a motion on it, but yeah, John and I are both there, and they seem to be all over this, to be honest with you, so I think when necessary, we can kind of push things, but this is one of those examples where they literally seem like they're working on it right now, so I don't know if we need a motion, but a motion not to send a letter for now.
Second?
Second.
So there's a motion and a second not to send a letter at this time. Is there any discussion? Ms. Craver, I have one comment or request, and that is, seeing how this is going, if we are going to give them some time, and I appreciate the fact that they're telling us that this project is actually not held up and it is in process, it's very vague. So.
I can be unvague for you.
I'd appreciate that.
The
Thank you.
plans were not at District 3 yet, so the plans are at their engineers. I don't know if they've gone to District 3 yet. They haven't. So.
That's very unvague of you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion?
No, I'm good.
Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Ms. Craver, number 2, discussion of the pros and cons of removing police from civil service.
Yes, sir. At the board's July 30th meeting, Chairman Singer noted that he has been pursuing the idea of removing the police chief, lieutenant, and possibly the whole police department from civil service, and to see if we want this on the October warrant. Chief Maxfield has provided you with following pros and cons, as well as the process required. For the department itself, there are basically 2 options. Town meeting vote to remove the department from civil service. This process essentially leaves everyone who is currently civil service with civil service status. This would only affect the new hires for entry-level positions or promotions. Or through the collective bargaining, you could meet with the union and through the bargaining process, the union would have to agree to remove themselves from civil service. Then the whole union would hold out of civil service. These are the things that the chief had provided. We've had further discussions with town council, and later on you will see a draft warrant article if you choose to move forward with this. The pros and cons, removing the union from civil service would make it permissible to hire transfers from non-union civil service agencies who would be otherwise prohibited from applying for a position with the department. We are, in effect, able to hire any qualified candidate. We are able to promote without going through an exam or assessment process, should the town choose. This would save a lot of time and money. And being able to promote without an exam or assessment process would allow the town to reward people who demonstrate leadership skills in the daily performance of their job versus someone who may simply test well. The cons, as the chief describes, are we are able to promote without going through an exam or assessment process, should the town choose, which could lend itself to politics. Negotiating with the union to go out of civil service would likely come at a substantial cost. A simple town meeting vote to remove the department from civil service could take decades to accomplish the intended goal of completely removing the department, and disciplinary action against an employee would no longer go to civil service, but instead to an arbitrator, where the town would be responsible for 50% of the cost of the arbitrator. Should the town choose to remove the department, he thinks the best way to do it would be through collective bargaining. Again, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Because his objective would be to have the goal be immediate. As far as the chief and lieutenant positions, it would require a vote at town meeting. The recommendation after working with town council was that it would be a legislative act, and that it would authorize you to move forward.
Thank you, Ms. Craver.
The last little piece that I do want to add here is that the board should bear in mind that the town has also voted the provisions of Chapter 41, Section 97A, the Strong Chief statute, and regardless of a town meeting to vote to remove civil service, removing that is a separate issue.
Thank you. And I'd like to point out for the members of the board that the original conversation was around chief and lieutenant had expanded to the entire department and has then again contracted to just the police lieutenant. So we're not talking about removing the entire department from civil service. We are only discussing removing the police and lieutenant positions from civil service. And there are placeholders on the warrant, so they're there if we need them, so that we can adjust them separately. Each one via a special legislative act.
So I would recommend that if, unless there's a lot of discussion, maybe hold this till we get to the warrant articles. Because you're going forward.
Yeah, I'm fine either way.
Because then you'll see the actual warrant article, and you can decide.
Everyone okay
That's
with
fine
that?
with me.
I just don't know if we went with the chief or Dan or.
Well, if they want, if the chief lieutenant want to answer any questions, so they can go, we
That
can
would-
still discuss it during the warrant.
Okay.
Or if you have any questions for the chief or for the lieutenant.
I do not.
So through the chair, I just want to make sure, we are just talking about removing the chief and the lieutenant from
That's it.
civil service, that's it?
Yep.
Okay.
Just the
Chief
two
is
at the top of the
standing.
pyramid.
Well,
I have
there's no
no,
questions, I don't come out.
Yeah.
no, I'm good.
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
All right, I won't get on camera.
So during the.
Somebody ask me a question, please, I waited for this.
So, then I would like to take this opportunity to point out, if I may, one of the motivations for me in wanting to remove the chief and lieutenant from civil service is I believe in the assessment center process. And I think what we've just went through has proven that as well. We spent a lot of money on that process, and the bottom line is, in the end, all we got was, force ranking. No different than civil service. Here's a number, number one, number two, number three, here's who you have to take. All of the investigations that were done, all of the assessments, and all of the in-depth reports on every candidate that were then generated and written, we were not allowed to see. So if we're gonna spend all that money on assessment centers, I think we, as a town, should have the right to read the actual assessments. Because, to one of the chief's points in here, you may have someone who still may test well and come out number one, but in those notes of the assessment may point out that that person, while they may have tested higher and come in as number one, may not have been, personality-wise, the best fit maybe for your town. We don't know that, and we don't have access to that information unless we remove those positions from civil service. Now, it would not affect our current chief and lieutenant, so they're protected. It only would affect future chiefs and lieutenants, and it would allow us to have full access to all that data that we're paying for, to make an educated decision. Any questions for the chief?
Yeah, David, through you.
Yes.
So Chief, is it a fair and/or accurate statement to say that more municipalities are going in this direction? Or is it kind of a 50-50, or are people saying status quo, or?
Sir, I think more towns are moving that way because generally the towns want more control over who they hire. Where civil service is, pretty rigid in the process. The rules are pretty defined, so. Though I think it worked out awesome the last time for everybody. Just my opinion. But but it lends itself to the politics. And that's really ultimately, because a decision of this board and an election goes by, a new board could feel 180 degrees, the other way. So that's the only thing to bear in mind when you.
And that always is a danger, especially when it comes to even strong chief, weak chief, depending upon the appointing authority. By the way, for those who don't know, strong chief basically means that chief makes the decisions as opposed to the board of selectmen.
I have control of deployment of personnel and resources. You can overturn a policy decision within 30 days, and you do all the appointing. I can only discipline for 5 days. I would have to go to the board for any more than 5 days. So there are certain things that are defined to the appointing authority and certain things, to me, so.
Personally, I like the flexibility that this allows us because it provides greater options, especially when you're talking about leadership positions. But, for now, I agree with restricting it and keeping the force as a whole off. And that, again, just concentrating on, especially, I know we're gonna talk about it a bit, as separate articles, to give the town's folks, voters, the opportunity to say yay or nay on either. Now, it would be odd if they took, if they left the chief in, but took the lieutenant out. It's theoretically possible. I would like to think it's kind of, if you go with one, you go with the other, but you never know.
One would hope, and the reason for breaking them into two was exactly that, to protect, an instance where someone says, oh, I'm fine with moving the chief, but not the lieutenant. For whatever reason, they would want to do that,
It could happen.
and the entire article failed. By breaking them up, we separate them, and so hopefully they both.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, and through the chair, so when I retire, if you take the job out of civil service, when I retire, the next person promoted in, whether they were civil service or not, would then not be civil service anymore. And it would be the same thing with the lieutenant, either getting promoted or vacating his position, promoting into non-civil service from civil service. You know, like if you promoted a sergeant up, you know, he would be, no longer be, so.
But that's assuming that we let you retire. So,
Well,
I mean,
that's
that's a big,
you know, there was a goals and objectives meeting, right?
There is a restraining chair in that department.
Okay.
that's all I have for the chief. Thank you for this.
Any other questions for the chief while he's here?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, chief.
Okay,
You
would you
ready, Tom?
require me to stay, Mr. Chairman, for the articles, or are we all set?
I don't think we need the chief.
I don't think
for
that there's anything there for you, chief.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Have a good
Jessica,
evening.
The only thing that I wanted to say is I know that
you need to take the
Yeah,
microphone.
come up here.
the chief had some difficulty when he posted his last two positions for police officers in terms of transfers from other towns, and
Yes, I did.
and
We still
part
have
of
that difficulty.
and part of the challenge is that when you transfer from another town, they have to be a civil service town in order to transfer into another civil service town. So,
Chiefs across the state, though, nobody wants to do this job anymore. So we're having a hard time, you know, recruiting people. So we've been lucky. We've grabbed people from the surrounding communities, but some of the other chiefs are getting wise to us. So they're not signing for their people to come over anymore, so.
So in terms of the pool, so not one way or the other, I just want there to be an educated thought process around the discussion in terms of.
So a non-civil
the
service
decision.
chief could be drawn from civil service or non-civil service. It's just that if they were civil service, they leave it when they come here.
It wouldn't help with the patrol.
Right.
So, so with the lower ranks, then, yeah, transfers have to be within civil service.
Thank you.
Dave, one incredible quick thing.
Yeah.
Chief, I just want to say thank you, and from the community. There were some concerns around, and I'm not going to tell you where, there were some speeding incidents, and there were some traffic concerns. I approached the chief with it. Within days, things were taken care of, so I can tell you that the community is very appreciative. So, and I want to say thank you personally to you and the staff, so thank you. Yeah, no, Derek was there.
Yeah, Derek was
Yeah.
here. So we've, with some of the equipment and grants that we've written, we've got those speed signs now and the traffic survey boxes and all that kind of thing. So we can nail down the time of day in a location where those violators are, you know, that we can, rather than just kind of sending people out blindly, guessing what times that this will happen, we know exactly what time, what the speed is, how many cars, that kind of thing, so we can better put people, and that's, Officer Gaylord does a great job with that.
Huge thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Craver, can we move to number 3, legal expenses, planning board?
Yes, sir. You have asked to discuss the planning board's legal expenses and setting limits for services. To date, regarding the LNG review, began by the planning board and now shifted to the LNG advisory committee. You have approved $30,000 as promised by NEC, $50,000 from town council line item, and $50,000 approved from finance committee's reserve for a total of $130,000. I'm carrying another $250,000 in the warrant article for that review. I believe the committee is in the process of hiring an attorney and consultants. You are to discuss estimated costs and limits. You did address some of this earlier, so you may want to just have a conversation there or not. Regarding the Valley Green Grove, VGG, the planning board has been authorized for a total of $34,000. I'm carrying another $250,000 for legal expenses on the special town meeting warrant to fund appeals of the subdivision, site plan, and potential bad faith claims against the town and its officials. Chairman Singer asks that we put this item on tonight's meeting.
Yeah, so this is mostly for informational purposes, to make sure the board's being transparent and also within the law, because we cannot, for all intent and purposes, just give any department blank checks. We have to have appropriate amounts, not to exceed, and then we can give more. Ms. Craver, my one request is regarding the 250, that we basically change it to a TBD, so that we can continue to work with FinCom and Planning Board, and we'll know exactly what the number will be. Instead of estimating, we'll have an exact number for town meeting. That being said, if you care to just elaborate on our earlier discussion regarding the finances that were decided and voted on, that should take care of my request.
It was done in executive
we can't
session.
talk
I'm
about that.
not quite clear what you would want.
And I think, wasn't Donna, our finance director, going to
So
speak
when-
on this?
What can we say and what can't we say? I want to make sure that we,
Given your earlier conversation with the LNG, I'm not.
just financials.
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't
Process.
bring anything up.
Just the process, is there let me ask through the chair
Yes.
to our finance director, Donna. Is there anything you would like to add, or do you want anything from us regarding process, or what can we do to help you, make your
Well,
job easier, I guess?
While the finance director is sitting, I know that part of what you had talked about was setting limits. And I'm not sure you did that for all of the attorneys, and I know that that's one of the things that spurred this conversation.
So, and I think along that lines, one of the reasons why they may not be aware, I've also asked for an article to put on town meeting warrant to create a legal fund for the planning board, like we've done for water sewer, so that there is parity, so that they will have their own fund with monies for legal services, and they won't have to come to us and ask for it. They'll have their own fund, and they can pay their lawyers.
Through the chair. How much is in the legal fund for water and sewer?
I believe it was 30,000 a year? Is that what? We'll have to check, but I think they get 30,000 a year in
And
their
that,
fund.
and the reason, just to let you know, the reason why water sewer has their separate fund is that they are an enterprise fund, so we would not commingle and use town council funds for water sewer purposes. So it has, whatever they're gonna spend has to be in their budget.
Okay, and in the interest of parity, what would be the line item for the legal fund for the
So,
planning board?
That would have to be determined, I think, between our board and the planning board prior to town meeting,
Okay,
based upon, I think, historic need and what they
Okay.
do.
and through the chair, will FinCom be involved in that conversation?
They would have to be.
Okay, and will our finance director be involved in that
Would have to
conversation? Okay,
In fact, I would hope to be working with FinCom and Donna on the language for the article as well.
and what will we base those numbers on?
Basically, history and what they do. Historically, their needs are higher than water sewer, so I would assume that the fund for them would be higher. However, they would have still an amount in that account, and if that amount is expended and exceeded, they would then have to come back to town meeting, explain what they spent it on and why they need more money. And the taxpayers would then have to approve any further expenses or monies to go into the account.
Okay, so essentially, it will eventually be up to the taxpayers to decide how their money is spent
Correct.
at town meeting.
Yes.
That's excellent. Thank you for doing that.
Can I ask a question? Because I know I'm gonna get this question right after this meeting. So the rest of the departments will come in and ask for legal in their own budgets, other elected boards. Can you say why you're basing, doing this for the planning board and not all the boards? Or are you considering doing it for all the boards?
I think this board will be open to consideration, but again, it depends upon need. The water sewer and planning board legal needs generally tend to be a lot more and a lot higher than almost any other board. I think any other board is welcome to come to this board with an argument and make a case as to why they may or may not need that. And to board can certainly consider it.
Through the chair.
Mr.
And
McGrath.
I'm just gonna go back to when I sat in the planning board. I believe that this cycle that we're in right now is an abnormal cycle where their expenses are very high. Okay? I believe most of your funding, Patsy, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, for legal is for zoning issues. When you're doing new zoning and you have to seek counsel on, on the zoning, the written portion that's gonna go on the warrant for a zoning issue or things like that. So I think right now we're in an abnormal cycle.
Yep.
I think that 30,000, you would have to go back historically through the finance director and find out what, historically, take out the highs and the lows and come up with an average of what they spent normally.
Right, and this would be done in conjunction with the finance director and FinCom, as well as the wording of the article.
Through the chair.
Mr. Borowski.
I don't want to jump too far. Actually, you know what? Let me hold off until we actually get to the.
You sure you want to do that?
To the warrant articles.
Okay.
Yeah, just because there is a danger of this.
So, actually, I was gonna say something if I may also.
Oh, you know what, I'll just say it now anyway, sorry, Rob. That basically, by leaving it up to the town is now making the decisions to say, yes, we're going to fund the planning board X, Y, or Z dollars. And if they could just zero it out and say, you know what, you can't appeal anything. So, again, the more control we want to give to voters at town meeting in the name of transparency and everything else with that comes along with that, so that, let's be honest, so that there's never a discussion again between planning board versus board of selectmen around, are you gonna fund this, yay or nay? That conversation is now between the planning board and the voters of the town. We pull a Pontius Pilate, we're out of it. So there's a danger of that.
Well, there's a couple of things I think you need to think about, and I see town council is back there, so I would also ask him if he has anything to add to this discussion. But you don't get out of it. If there's a suit, you will want to somehow be informed of what's going on, because you are also the ones overseeing the insurance and all liability and suits against the town. So I would caution you to think well before stepping out into this area. I understand why you want to do it, but I would think well about what the board does give up and all the other places that you are responsible for.
I wouldn't just a happy medium, I'm not sure.
Right, but if I may, I don't
I don't know
think
what the
that
answer
the
is. I'm
article
just
or
wanna
giving
say.
them an account would preclude the Board of Selectmen from its ability to expend money on legal defense for the town. So the monies that would go into this account would be for their operations, not their legal defense. If we get sued
If you call it a legal fund, then they would be able to.
for paying
utilize
for
it.
lawyers to do their work, if we get sued, then it's still upon this board to defend the town, if the town
You,
gets sued.
you could get in a position that you're suing each other. And that's the risk
Yeah,
of
yeah.
putting it in a separate account. What I would suggest to you is to fund more in your legal services and then vote an allocation like we've done of how much you want to allocate for them to use.
And now we basically earmark a certain percentage to the planning board regardless, but it allows us more flexibility.
So what I'd like to ask then is, we have the placeholder, I'd like to ask to leave it in place. And we can discuss this with Donna, FinCom, and the planning board.
And town council. I
And
would
town
suggest
council.
that.
I think that there's a happy compromise in here, quite honestly. I just, to your point, I'm not sure what the wording is, because I know where you're going with this, and I like it. I just don't know what the executable plan is to make sure we all go, did we think of everything?
Right, so if
But
we all
I
come
like the
together,
concept.
we can leave the placeholder for now, we can all work together to find what hopefully will
You good?
work.
Yeah. No, like I said,
Do you want to speak?
I like that, yeah.
This point?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't want to be out of order.
You're Roger Dever.
Roger Cludier, 17 Colburn Road. My only point is that I just heard this board wringing their hands because the voters didn't approve something that the board clearly said we need, public safety building. If this legal, when you're going down this road of having voters vote on whether you're going to pay for legal or not, you kind of, again, they will not be very well informed as to why it would be necessary. I mean, you run that risk. I just want to warn everybody that if you leave it up to the voters, which I like because it's very transparent, but sometimes there's things that you as a board has to handle, and the voters may not like it. They may not agree with it, but it's in the best interest of the town.
So that is true.
That's just my only point.
That is true, Roger,
Just-
if I may. So this would be something that would be voted by the voters at town meeting, not at a ballot. So at town meeting.
I understand, but if it gets voted down at the town meeting.
Yes, you are correct.
They don't have any money, and there are legal things that the planning board or the water sewer board has to do. It doesn't get done because the voters won't give them the money. You're just gonna have, I'm just cautioning you on the ill effects of something like that. Sometimes democracy, we're a republic, not a pure democracy, and there's a reason for that. And I just caution you on that, that as a voter, I love the fact that you're giving us a choice. However, knowing that not everybody will be as well informed as the board, if you give up some of that, you do that at your own peril.
So
That's
I
my
think
point.
the point is well taken, and my hope would be that we can come to a solution that would give them the flexibility they need without necessarily tying our hands or their hands should they need to seek emergency funding.
That's why I say I think that there's a compromise in here.
Through the chair, if I may just put in my 2 cents. I think we may be going down a dangerous path myself. I like the idea of what Donna recommended, because I think, and you could probably find out if it's more of a best practice. I think ultimately we are the ones responsible, and with a lot of what's going on in the legal world, right, with lawsuits, et cetera, it's very fluid. Things change rapidly. And I like the idea of having everything, the legal line item, right, a lump sum, and then the subcategories, I think, like you mentioned, and then controls put in place. And then if we have X number of dollars for any given department, and they hit that and need more, then they come back for a reauthorization, and then we can decide based on what's happening, because again, things are very fluid, and then move forward and give them the money. But I think the last, Jerry? Roger, sorry, I'm looking at.
No, you just look at it.
Made a very good point, and to me, that makes more sense, and ultimately, we are the ones in control, and again, situations are so fluid, it gives us more flexibility. I just think we're going down a dangerous path, because what else are we gonna break out? And again, I'm all for transparency, don't get me wrong, but when does it end with what we can?
So,
Through the chair.
like I said, hopefully the goal is to
Yes.
give flexibility, but not tie their hands at the same
Yeah,
time.
so
And I
I-
think by working with planning board, with Donna, and with FinCom, I think we can come to not only an amicable solution, but one that will actually work for the town, this board and their board, which is the goal. And to me, there's absolutely no question that no matter what we do or what process we take going forward, there has to be parity, so whatever if we do this for planning board, and if we're going to involve Donna and FinCom, which we should be doing the same for water sewer and anyone else that's gonna have a fund like that, because FinCom and Donna have to be involved in anything related to money.
Through the chair,
Mr. McGrath.
I see council is,
Actually, well, council's back there saying, Mr. Singer, shut up.
Can I just say one more thing, David?
Yes.
Through the chair. When I said I supported this, I wasn't under the impression that we were just going to put a pool of money in a fund and say, spend it as you wish on legal expenses. I assumed that there was going to be strict parameters.
There has to be.
Regarding how it could be funded, how the funds could be used. I wasn't under the impression that we were just going to go, here's a check for $250,000 for legal fees, have at it, because the buck does stop here.
Yes, you cannot just give blank checks.
No. So that's, I just wanted to make that clear, that while I like the idea of giving them their own line item for legal fees and other legal expenses, consultants and whatnot, I was not under the impression that it did not come with strings attached. There has to be strings attached.
So this will be a conversation that we can have with them, with FinCom, and with Donna, and amongst the board.
Through the chair, before Mr. Carver speaks, very
And
briefly.
of course, town council, sorry.
Briefly.
Very briefly.
Just a couple of thoughts. Through
You
the
can lead
chair.
off with Mr. Singer, please shut up.
I'm sorry. I'm very
Go ahead.
Just a couple, the first point doesn't relate to what you should do. It's just so you know what the law is, and the law is clear that no other town board can engage legal counsel without the Board of Selectmen's approval, even for free. Secondly, on the more practical side, I mean, I've practiced law for a while, and lawyers have very different billing rates. Some are double what mine are. Mine are lower for the town, and this is partially because of the market, and to be perfectly honest, partially it's because of KP Law or Copeland Page, because they more or less dominated a large part of the field for a long time, and they were able to hire people to just do one particular field of law, and Lenny could get them on for very modest wages. The other side, though, is that it's historically, and I guess this is sort of the reverse of a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. When I started, we were dealing in the basement of, bargaining in the basement of what used to be the town hall or library across the street, which, thanks in part to Karen, is now much upgraded. And they chained prisoners to the radiators. So in that day, and particularly even when I came in, but particularly when Bill Talcott was town council, this was a public service. And that's why you did it it was almost an honorary type of position, and the billing rates were much, much lower. So I think some good points. I didn't hear everything. I was in the penny seats here, but I thought the point was good that if you if town meeting doesn't allow a board and you think that they should, then you could be constrained. And I think it is somewhat of a dangerous road at a minimum. I would think at an absolute minimum. You would not want to get involved after you allow a board to have the money, because then you have no control over rates or how much work is done, and another board might not be as conversant with, legal rates and work and the constraints, such as Deborah mentioned earlier. If you're in the field, there are certain parameters and there are things you need to look at before you engage somebody. Once they're engaged, and they go halfway down the road, and you want to switch horses in midstream, then whoever is coming on has to redo much of what was done before. So there are some real practical problems with that. Just for information.
No, I appreciate that, Jim, thank you. Mr. Borowski.
Dave, through you very briefly. Selectperson Noble brings up an excellent point around the buck stops here as mayor of the Board of Selectmen. It's a bit philosophical, but my question is, should it? And I mean this seriously. The planning board, to use them as an example, are a duly elected board. They have no reporting responsibility to us whatsoever. They hire their own planner. They're basically their own independent entity in the other corner of the place. However, often via litigation and others, we, the Board of Selectmen, are asked to weigh in and approve their legal expenses. So I'm being completely serious when I say, we talk on the buck stopping with us, and again, legally, I'm not sure how any of this works, to be honest, but I think at some point, whether it's now or later, I think we should ask ourselves a serious question of, they are an independent board, they should be held responsible, and I mean that nicely, for their own decisions. And, because if not, that just means that we have to oversee another duly elected board on a legal budget and help make decisions on whether things should be appealed, when they should be appealed, who they can hire, and things like that. And the reality is, should the five of us be telling a different five-member board how to do that? I don't need an answer now. It's just something to think about.
I should have thought of that before we went philosophic.
Through the chair.
I'm sorry.
So I would just like to turn to what Councilor Cosgrove said, and maybe I misunderstood him, but I believe he said that through Mass General Law, we are charged with the defense of the town for all legal expenses.
As interpreted by the Supreme Judicial Court.
So that's why the buck stops here.
Right.
But, and through the chair too, I was going to mention that too, John. The other thing that's important, at least I think is a good compromise in how I look at it, is because these boards are independent and the buck stops with us with overseeing or monitoring the legal line item, I believe, again, going back to a limit and then not micromanaging. I think you go into a very dangerous place when you say, here's the money and here's all these strings that are attached and we have to approve this, 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 and this. If they want to hire someone because they think that independent board believes that that person is a better, is more of an expert, I think we shouldn't chime in with our opinions. We should have respect and be courteous, and again, I think we give them a lump sum, they come back if they need more, and again, any board we're talking about, but they have to, get reauthorization, give us good cause, and then but to attach a lot of strings, I think is, I don't think it's anything that we should be doing.
However, through Chair, I think the problem is, and again, I doubt that we're going to solve this tonight, so we can even move on at some point.
It's not
but-
the intent of
Yeah,
having this on the
exactly.
agenda.
But again, it goes back to this board
That's a good
has to
dialogue.
weigh in on legal decisions. So let's say X board, I want to talk about the planning board for a second. Let's say something has been appealed or they're getting sued, and they come up with something
And
that's.
this could be planning board, could be water sewer,
Could
could
be
be
anybody.
anybody.
And they want consultants or legal fees, attorneys of like $1 million. How can the five of us weigh in on that? I mean, I'm being completely serious. I have no idea what the legal strategy is, what attorneys that they'd be looking to do. But for all intents and purposes, that's what we're being asked to do, is to check the box. So that's why I was wondering around a potential compromise to say, and some person, I may disagree with in this, but I'm not 100% sure yet, that it's one of those, you can spend up to X amount of dollars per year, and you are held accountable for all of that. Anything, and again, that may just mean that from a procedural standpoint, that we have to sign off on it legally, but then after that, you have to come back to us and justify via business case, what's your return on investment, regardless of what board it is, of what are you doing?
FinCom should be included in that.
Yeah, again, this is a really squarely issue, because I think, again, conceptually, I like it. The execution of it makes me nervous.
But that goes back to reauthorization, and I go back to looking at our finance director and our attorney.
Are we ever gonna say no?
And looking for the professional advice and guidance, and what is the best practice? We shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel, so, and we want to certainly be within the law, so.
Well, it sounds like we have all this figured out.
Through the
Yeah.
chair.
Yeah,
Sure.
Excuse me.
So just to add a couple of pieces. One, you have elected boards who have, and I hear you keep saying that they're their own island. I think you might want to take a look at the statutes for these boards, because they have particular lines where they need to dance within.
Agreed.
So the planning board, my understanding is the planning board's authority expands to site plan review. There's certain things that the statute allows them complete control over, and the Board of Selectmen should have no party in that. Just as you don't with the building commissioner, you appoint one, but then you need to stay hands-off with whatever their decisions are. There are other areas where these elected boards, the Board of Selectmen must have, and do have oversight, such as many of these boards have union members. So you do the bargaining for the union members. That is not something that's within their statute and that they have the ability to do. You also have the pays billable. You hold the whole financial structure. So they operate, they're allowed to do within their authority, but there's still a department within the town, and the Board of Selectmen still has the overview and responsibility on a general kind of, as they used to say, the fathers. So I think there's a lot of areas where they are not an island, and that might be a conversation, a larger conversation that you had for, as far as elected officials, what their tasks are, and maybe look at mission statements, and then where does the board come up and say, here's my territory, here's your territory, because I think that that's gotten blended over the last year and confused. I would also say one more thing, because you have town council, so town council reports to you, you appoint town council. Town council is the person who is supposed to look out for the whole town. And as Jim said, and you've been very fortunate in the town councils you've had, that they think about the town well, they make sure and they balance the needs, and they give you advice as you need it. If you have different boards starting to go hire their own people that you have no relationship with, that is there for a single reason, the board has no guarantee that that attorney is going to have some broader view and consideration for the whole town and how that one department fits into the whole town. So those are just two other pieces that I want you to think about as you move forward.
Through the chair, I think this is a much larger conversation as we've found out, so.
It's only 9.
Yes, it's a conversation that's going to have to continue, but it's, I think, worth having.
Yes.
Through the chair, if I may just add a couple of things. That Robin was correct when she pointed out, going to the micromanagement, that as an opinion I stated before the annual town meeting, as a matter of law, the Board of Selectmen cannot direct another official or board on how to perform their statutory duties. The planning board does have its particular duties, and it's mainly to the powers vested in them under the statute and through their rules and regulations. I said this to someone recently. Judge McCann said to me many, many years ago, the planning board is an unfortunate misnomer, because then the people who are on the board, the poor people who are on the board, are looked to by the citizens thinking they can plan. They can actually plan for the town. They cannot do that other than their input through a master plan. The other side of it is there have been cases where one town board or entity will sue another. Very unfortunate, and Charlton has avoided that. If you just allocate a certain amount of money to another board, good luck. And I would be surprised. You might want to do some kind of little survey around the Commonwealth to see how many communities, cities, and towns appropriate money to separate boards. I would be surprised if it's any or more than a handful. And it sort of plays into, as Don would know better than I was negotiating when we were dealing with Oxford to get water with the general counsel of the American Water Company. And she was out somewhere in the Midwest, and she said that she practiced her own law. Here they hired somebody else. Everywhere in the United States except New England, because New England is so complex. And it's probably because of the origin of Massachusetts, for example, which used to include Maine. They have tied up municipalities as the Lilliputians did Gulliver in terms of the financial requirements and laws. They're extremely complex, and they're what we're talking about, this background about the selectmen being in control of the budget and that sort of thing, is one of the reasons why, I'm sure, to keep control of the budget. I think Charlton has been very, very lucky for many, many years, decades really, in terms of, if you read in the paper every once in a while, there's litigation in another town, and the expenses become outlandish, discrimination suits and that sort of thing. Charlton's been fortunate in part, I think, because most of the people historically, starting with Cowtown, that you've dealt with, were Charlton citizens, and they wanted to get things done, and they were willing to compromise. When you have large entities coming in from out of town and the character of the town has changed, then you're more at risk for big litigation, no question about it. Okay, thanks, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
One moment to the side.
All right, so this is a conversation, Mr. McGrath is right. It's going to be a more drawn out one over more time.
Through the chair,
Ms. Bueck.
Donna, did you have anything else you wanted to add or ask? Or?
I just, without giving out too much information, the unallocated amount that you have remaining in your legal was $33,000. You've now expended $18,450, so you have a balance of $14,550. And we have not done caps on anything else other than the LNG and Merrick.
Okay.
Thank you, Donna.
So do we need to do a cap on something tonight, Donna?
I think you should have caps, however, there's so little there.
Okay.
I think if you are adding more money in October, then that's the time to maybe do your caps then.
Well, we're trying to add money in October, that's the issue, which ultimately ties back to the conversation around funding of legal expenses.
Correct.
We can talk more about that when we get into the warrant.
Thank you, Donna.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Donna.
Being said, Ms. Craver, can we please move on? Oh, I'm sorry.
To the chair, Art Longden, 7 Martin Station Road. Thank you. So I heard some nice words about transparency, responsibility, and respect as it pertains to the responsibilities of the board. And I think in talking about finances and talking about fees set up for lawyers, I think those of us sitting on the other side of the table are curious. Where do we sit with our lawyer fees? What are the VGG discovery numbers? What are the already paid out numbers for the lawyers' fees that we've already incurred? And what do we anticipate in the future? And how do we intend to pay for those? I think I heard for the first time tonight something about a warrant. I suspect that's going to ask us for more money for lawyers. So perhaps we don't have that answer today, but how do us citizens find out about what is the process that's being used to determine what funds are being allocated? And how do we play into the approval of this allocation? It's affecting us. It's affecting votes that occur for other items, undoubtedly. Certainly, we can't all believe that the fire station is solely being voted down for one reason. So I think that what I'm asking is, where's the transparency for us of where our money is being spent, and what can we anticipate to be spending in the future? And I know you won't answer that, or you probably can't answer that tonight, but I'd like to know, when can we get those answers?
Ms. Craver, I mean, for me, would it be fair to say, generally speaking, at town meeting, the budget is presented outlining all of the monies for every single department, for every capital expense, and for every purchase the town may make, including legal. And that's a higher level view as far as the day-to-day, where the money may come out from different funds, various departments. How would you get the individual departments' monthly breakouts?
Well, and all of these are public records, with the exception of attorney-client privileged communication. Anyone can ask for the bills. They can ask. We've actually had people email last week asking for a tally of the bills by department. So I have those. If you would like, if you're interested in them, you can come and see me or send me an email, let me know what you'd like to know. We're very good at trying to put things together for the residents so that they can get their information. With that said also, the Board of Selectmen is going to be looking at their goals and objectives. One thing, there is software out there that many towns are using now called Open Checkbook, so that you can actually see line items as they're being spent and what is happening, and those are put right onto the website. So that may also be something that the Board of Selectmen asks the finance director to take a look at.
Through the chair. I believe the email that Ms. Craver is referring to with that breakdown we got, I'm looking in my email now, it looks like we got it last Thursday at 6 in the evening.
If he wants to contact you, I've got those.
Yeah. So I'm not aware of the intricacies behind having to ask for stuff, so that's kind of new to me, right? And normally I would go next door to my cube mate and I'd ask them, what are we spending this on? So the notion of having to put in a request for what seemingly should be public information, and is public information, by the way, is a little backward, I guess, from my perspective. So that covers what we've spent, certainly. How do we cover what do we anticipate spending?
Sure. And I think that's kind of like where we're kind of discussing this now, is to figure out how much control should voters have versus how much control should independent boards have or other boards have, as opposed to general oversight by the Board of Selectmen. And is it fair to ask the Board of Selectmen to make determinations upon other groups' legal things? And the answer may be yes, but I think that's what we're trying to hash out. So people can estimate out what they think things might be, but when it comes to legal fees in new cases or even existing cases that regardless of the case, that other components might be brought in, you're talking order of magnitude estimates, minus 25 plus 75 if you're lucky.
I heard a number of $14,000 left in the legal account, something to that effect, you know.
Unallocated.
There are some things that the town can predict. We know what salaries will be. We know what certain costs will be. We bid out on sand, right, for snow, for treating our roads, and even that can be exceeded based upon how bad the winter is. But there are some things that you just cannot and will never be able to predict. You know, and unfortunately, lawsuits and defenses are one of them, and you unfortunately can't anticipate. You do the best you can, based on history, but you can't anticipate what may come down the pike, and we can only operate with, so the only answer we can give you on definitives are the knowns, you know, the salaries, the hard items that we know exactly what they're going to be every single year, but there's always going to be those that you don't know, and you can't anticipate.
I mean,
And there is a line item budget that goes to town meeting by department.
I think a lot of what happens is that if people, and I don't mean to have this sound glib, but if people don't like the way the Board of Selectmen or others are spending money, vote us out and find someone who you think can spend it better. I mean, I'm being dead serious, because in the absence of other rules, that's the only thing that we can go by is our instincts and our best judgment. And if people question that judgment, as they should always question our judgment, if he or she thinks they can do it better or someone else can do it better, knock us out and find someone who says, you know what, I don't want you to spend more legal fees.
I certainly hope you didn't get the impression.
Oh, God, no.
I think Mr. Borowski talk.
It's always a challenge from Bill? Okay.
No, but realistically, in the absence of like any constraints, who's in office at the time, and who's making the decisions, and do you agree with him or her? Really, honestly, at its basic form, that's what it is.
If I could also remind, because you may not know the system, the Board of Selectmen does a budget, it goes to the Finance Committee, and there's a Finance Committee of citizens, and they look at the requests of the board, so there is another pair of eyes that will make recommendations when you get to town meeting. And if you watch some of those meetings, you'll be able to see how the Finance Committee will drill down. They'll actually have departments come in and talk about their budgets or their capital requests or what they're looking for. And then the Finance Committee will make recommendations to the town meeting. So that's another way that the financial component is transparent.
Understood. I actually was at that meeting this year, and I understand that what I didn't get exact clarity on, and I don't expect exact clarity, is how do we deal with the outliers, and how do we determine when enough is enough, and how do we determine how are we going to pay for this, and who are we going to ask, and what are we not going to do instead? And that's why I'm looking for, you know, from a citizen perspective, what are the parameters that we have in place that determine when do we say no more? That's you know, and in order for me as a citizen to ask those questions, I feel as though I need more information. And to your point, I guess I have more. I have what's been paid and approved, but not what's pending. And I think part of me is not knowing what I don't know is an uncomfortable position. And so, again, I go back to my transparency, responsibility, and respect. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Art. Ms. Craver, number 4, fiscal 2020 special town meeting.
Special town meeting, time has come again upon us.
And if I may, I'd like to request you and Donna look into open checkbook.
Yeah.
Can you take a look at that, open checkbook? And that's a good segue to just say, Mass Municipal Association Annual Trade Show. I highly recommend it. It's in January. And that trade, they have workshops, but what they also have is vendors that you can walk through, talk with them. Many of the new technology, they'll be there, they can show it to you, and open checkbook is generally one that is there. So I would highly recommend that. Special town meeting time has come upon us, and you opened the warrant for FY20 special town meeting at your last meeting. Attached is the calendar, which has you closing the warrant at your September 10th meeting. Departments, boards, and committees were notified the warrant was open on August 15th. You have a joint meeting with the Finance Committee on September 11th, and you may wish to wait to close the warrant on September 11th after your discussion. The special town meeting is held on Tuesday, October 8th, 2019, and as I'm reading this memo, I also want to hand out a revised one for you.
Are we gonna go through each and every one? Are we gonna go through tonight?
I didn't hear you, what?
Are we going through every single warrant tonight?
We do not have to. You can tell me what you want to do.
Oh,
The special town meeting, so I've attached a draft warrant for you. which is was sent already to you, and it's also attached to the agenda. The Finance Committee reviewed a similar draft last week and have adjusted the ADA, we've adjusted the ADA recreational fields to correct the amount that made it a standalone article. As usual, if departments want a warrant article and do not have the exact wording, I will encourage them to request a placeholder so that appropriate language can be developed. The following are placeholders requested by Chairman Singer. You have the creation and funding of a legal account for the planning board, similar to the water sewer, and he had put maybe fund with $15,000 a year. The other one was an article to fund the internal departmental audit, an in-depth investigation due to cost taxpayers should decide whether or not to fund it. So it's about finding a funding mechanism. I did, from your meeting earlier, add on here to put the LED lights, and I will put that into the transfers and have that come from the Casella account. Would you like me to go through the warrant? I could probably go through, kind of give you a bird's eye view over, or you don't need to?
I think since we're going to be meeting, through the chair, I'm sorry, I think since we're going to be meeting with FinCom and just going over it again, it would be good to have the conversation, if it appears they're in agreement.
I think everyone was shaking their heads, they agree with you.
No.
No. Through Chair, the only thing I'd like to bring up is not for discussion for tonight, we can figure it out next few weeks, is that, as a reminder to the town, we don't have a quorum number for town meeting. So if 4 people show up, at least to the best of my knowledge, please someone correct me, that we do not have a quorum at town meeting. That means if 4 people show up, those 4 people can literally vote the entire budget and everything else that goes along with it. My recommendation would be, we just put a baseline number in and say, look, I don't even know what it is, 40 people, 50 people, just something to think about, that the board may want to sponsor. I think this helps clean things up on a go forward. It protects the downside with very limited risk. So that's one thing. I know there's an idea around a citizen's petition around potentially changing the sign bylaw to allow us to put color on our wonderful new sign, by the way, which I think is getting rave reviews, so nice job on that. So those are 2 things just to think about. One's probably going to be a CP, but we may want to consider it in concert with members of the planning board. But at least for tonight, just think about potentially adding in a quorum item. Beyond that, I got nothing else.
Can I add something that we talk about as managers with the quorum or not quorum?
Please.
What we've seen is the towns that have no quorum tend to have higher participation, because people will sit home and say, I know they can't do anything unless they get 40 people or 20 people. So what happens is, those towns end up getting on the phone, calling their police and fire and getting everybody down there. You've never had that you have never had a problem? I don't think you've ever been under 100 since I've been here.
Yeah, not that I remember.
Our neighbors had that problem.
Just think about that if you put a quorum in. So there may be people. And right now, you've got, good old Yankees that say, I'm not going to let 4 people do it, spend my money.
Charlotte
So they
voters
won't be
are
down
angry
here.
at town meeting? Absolutely not.
I
I've never
said
seen it.
Yankees.
No, I said
All
angry
Yankees.
specifically, angry Yankees. But yeah, anyway, that's all I got for tonight. As far as I'm concerned, we don't have to look at this.
In the future, please refer them as Red Sox.
Yes, sir.
A quick comment through the chair. Is it possible, or did we do this before, using the, is it the reverse 911 to remind people to come to meetings?
Yes, I've asked for that.
Because I think that would be a great way to communicate with folks.
We were doing it, but we were doing it only if people signed up. Because we did not
They do
want to
opt
use
in.
that as a
Maybe we can do.
non-emergency.
Maybe we can do reverse 911. Let them know that they can opt in. No.
Maybe
If you ever want to hear from us again, press this button.
Right, but maybe we could, just again, maybe put it on the board behind us so they see the opt-in option.
Or on the
on
new
every
sign.
televised meeting. Put it on the sign, put it on the website, so that everyone knows, hey, you can opt in to receive these important notifications.
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's good enough.
good idea. All right.
Thank you. That being said,
Mr. Chair? Just one quick question.
shoot.
Just speaking as the chair of the rec commission, and just generally, when is it possible to get a
Sorry.
draft copy of the warrant?
Sorry, Luke, who are you?
Nobody, don't worry about it.
Spell your name, please.
So just when is it possible to get a copy of the draft warrant? I know there's like specific guidelines. I'm not sure how that specifically works, though. Part of my ignorance on that.
Well, I've given some to the board tonight, you can have what I put together for tonight, but I always make the caveat that I don't do a draft warrant to put out, because if someone, there's changes, it changes
It
right
will
up
change a
until the
lot.
night before. So, once they post the warrant, that's the warrant. It's gonna be also probably the motions that you wanna see. And, you know, you can always contact us for those. If you're looking to find out if a particular capital item got on, or is being recommended, you could contact my office. I can let you know, where we are in that process.
Yeah, points well taken, thank you, I appreciate it.
The special town meeting warrant will be posted by Monday, September 23rd.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
You gotta look.
Thank you. Are there any committee reports or policy reviews?
The Marijuana Advisory Committee met this evening, just prior to this meeting, and as soon as I get those minutes, I will make sure that they are posted publicly and everybody here has a copy. The one thing I would like to share with everyone is that Green Gold Group is scheduled to go before the Cannabis Control Commission on the 12th. And if all goes well, they should be opening their doors on the 15th.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
That's great news.
That's quick.
Thank you for that update. That's good.
Thank you. Are there any other? No? Ms. Craver, Town Administrator's report? Oh, and while we're on that, can you please let us know, since school has started,
Come on, yeah.
when we might anticipate a student select person?
Oh, yeah, they started today.
Yes, they went back to school. I waved off the last one, the last first day of school picture we will ever take for high school.
That's just sad.
Senior year.
That's just sad.
Ms. Craver?
I will look into that.
Thank you.
Celebrating agriculture, we have received an invitation to attend the 19th Celebrating Agriculture event on Saturday, September 2nd, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Woodstock Fairgrounds in Woodstock. Their purpose is to showcase the benefits of agriculture, provides to our region, as well as the challenges farms are facing today. It's attached for your information. The FY18 MVP Action Grant project is closed out. We filed the paperwork required to close out our FY18 and municipal action grant that was awarded to Charlton and Spencer for the development of the town's integrated water infrastructure vulnerability assessment and climate resiliency plan, and requested reimbursement for the remainder of the $300,000 grant award. So,
Cool, thank you.
Catching up to you. Okay.
Other business?
So, thank you, Ms.
Request for
Craver.
support new legislation.
Yep.
yes.
Other business?
Yep, under new, other business.
Unknown at the time of posting.
Yes.
There was one item, request to support new legislation, notification of raw sewage release. Ms. Craver?
Did just want to add under the TA report, as you've mentioned, the sign, it went live, I think, yesterday. You did approve a policy, and we're working on that. Part of the policy says 1 minute each. We're finding that that is much too long, so we're going to be tinkering, so I'm just letting you know, we're going to tinker with the policy and then come back now that it's up and running.
For how
to
long
see.
each message is displayed?
Yes, we're finding, that we're starting, we had a discussion today that we think maybe 15
I
seconds.
think that's plenty, 10
Might
to
be
15
plenty.
seconds.
Try holding
Plenty.
on for like 60 seconds, it's a while.
Yeah,
Okay.
10 to 15 seconds actually is a
And
long time. too.
Also working with the department so that we don't have 24 things. Just want to let you know.
Thank you.
Support new legislation. Chairman Singer asked for this item to be on the agenda. He received communication from Emily Norton, Newton counselor, who is reaching out seeking support from her fellow local officials for a bill that would require notification when there are sewer discharges into rivers. Right now, there is no law that when raw sewage is dumped into a river, such as a combined sewer overflow, that the public or even local elected officials must be notified. As you can imagine, sewage in a river is super unhealthy in many ways. The House Bill 3976 would require that sewage system operators issue a public advisory within 2 hours of a sewer discharge and every 8 hours thereafter until this discharge has ended. A final advisory within 2 hours of the conclusion of the discharge, and advisories be made available online, sent via email or text message to subscribed members of the public, submitted to the 2 largest local news organizations, and distributed to local boards of health, municipal offices, officials, the State Department of Health, and Mass DEP. Presently, they do have to make a reporting for Mass DEP. The bill has over 80 co-sponsors, but that's no guarantee of success. It would help if Speaker DeLeo were to see how much municipal support there is for the bill. What is the board's wishes?
Through Chair, it amazes me, I'm sorry, through Chair.
Go ahead.
It amazes me that this isn't a bill to begin with, so motion to issue a letter of support.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any
Second and a
discussion?
third. Just one. Can we send this to our Board of Health and also get them to sign on to it?
Good idea.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. The next regular meeting?
Through the chair?
The search.
Oh,
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 and while
other
you-
business. Thank you.
Borowski.
What?
I forgot to
He forgot
print,
his
I forgot to
announcement,
print that
I
out.
guess.
I forgot to print it out, but I have it on my phone.
Can't take it anymore.
Bear with me. One other piece of business unknown.
You too.
Wasn't me this time, I swear.
At the time of posting, I'll have it really fast, hang on. I just do it by search. Got
Can I
it.
bring something up while you're doing that?
I already found it, but go
Okay,
ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I wanted to suggest that we arrange a meeting with the schools to discuss the capital improvement plans. If you may recall, they did want to do that, and they wanted to do it before, I know you're going to cringe, before our special town meeting in October. So is it possible to reach out to them, ask our town administrator to reach out to them to see if we could discuss, again, going back to that more holistic approach, so we're on the same page regarding our capital improvement needs?
Which I think it's a good idea, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking we should also extend and invite to the new superintendent to come out and say hi to.
I think that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Good
All
idea.
right, so,
So I will read the announcement and then the charge. So, pinch and zoom. The Board of Selectmen has voted to create a search committee to help in the recruitment of a new town administrator. The search committee will consist of 9 members, will be staffed by the town's executive recruitment consultant, Grew White Consulting LLC, and will have a specific charge approved by the Selectmen, which I will read at the end of the announcement. It is our hope that the membership of the search committee will be diverse and representative of the town and will represent a healthy cross-section of many of the town's most active and respected citizens. The charge of the committee is as follows. I'll read that in a moment. The board has set Wednesday, September 18th, 2019, as the deadline for submission of an email expressing interest in being considered for appointment to the screening committee. Emails should be sent to mary.devlin, D-E-V-L-I-N, @townofcharlton.net. Your email expressing interest should provide all contact information, including an email address and a brief statement about your experience as a town volunteer and interest in serving. And the charge is to assist the Board of Selectmen and consultant in reviewing applications for the town administrator position. Specific charges: 1, become familiar with the role, responsibility, and authority of the position of town administrator as described in the town's bylaws and job description. 2, with the assistance of the consultant, consider in confidence applications and resumes submitted for the position. Compare the experience and qualifications of applicants against the qualifications listed in the town bylaws, job description, and as defined by the Board of Selectmen. Treat all applications, and resumes with strict confidence and not divulge the identity or resume information on any applicant during and following the screening process. 4, advise the Board of Selectmen on candidates deemed most suitable for consideration beyond the initial interviews by the screening committee. 5, be aware that the committee is not authorized to conduct reference and background checks on candidates. 6, appreciate that the Board of Selectmen is ultimately responsible for selecting and appointing the town administrator. 7, recognize that the consultant has been engaged by the Board of Selectmen and is expected to make direct recommendation regarding candidates that may differ from the committee if deemed appropriate. So hopefully by September 18th, anyone who is interested in being considered, the committee already does have several names that have been floated. We do need members of the community to hopefully reach out to us. We need to fill the committee, and we still need more people to contact us and express their interest. And hopefully they will email mary.devlin@townofcharlton.net by September 18th, again, with their experience in the town and their interest.
Through the chair, do you want to mention who cannot apply?
I think we should. So certain people who cannot be on the screening committee are current elected officials, employees, appointed as well. Anyone, I believe.
I think the appointed, we said it was.
Oh, appointed was okay, correct. No employees and no elected officials. Also, no one that is currently or even recently may have been involved in litigation against the town. Am I missing anything? Or is that it?
No, I think that was it. And we might want to just touch on what kind of commitment they're looking for. I know it's a little vague.
So the commitment is
but-
actually not that strenuous. It's, I believe, maybe once or twice a month. That's about it.
I think they said 6
6
meetings.
meetings. I think they said 6 meetings, and it's starting, was it
Yes.
about mid-October, they thought?
Yes.
Again, it's,
Yep,
6 max.
yep,
6 max?
Yeah.
6 maximum meetings.
and the
Oh,
time
per
to be
week.
determined
Sorry.
when the group meets.
No more than once per week.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
I think that sums it up.
yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, after you.
Oh, we still have no executive session, don't we?
That's why I'm waiting for you.
Everybody else good?
Yeah.
So motion to enter an executive session under MGL, Chapter 38, Section 21, Number 1, to discuss the discipline or dismissal of complaints or charges against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. And Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, Valley Green Grow, LNG, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and to return to open session to effectuate any votes required from discussion, and then to adjourn.
Second. And the chair does declare. By roll call vote. No. Yeah.
Borowski, yes.
Ms. Bueck?
Aye.
Ms. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath?
Aye.
Chair. Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. We are now in executive session. I believe we will only come out of executive session with the sole purpose of adjournment.
I think so.
Yes.
And we have 2 things we're discussing, so some people are coming.
No, actually, you're
Yeah.
not going out for the purposes of just,
Number 1, are we not doing number 1 anymore?
you may still be coming out to take votes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all.
Oh,
I'm just.
So we may still be coming out to take a
Are
public
we
vote.
doing number 1? No, if not, there's no votes.
Well, we'll see. So we may still be coming out to vote in public session or to just adjourn. But we have that option.
Are we in executive session now, ladies and
We are now in
gentlemen?
executive session. Thanks.
Sorry, folks. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming tonight.